This conference will now be recorded.
All right, good evening, everyone. I call to order the meeting of the Goal Setting Workshop on April 19th, 2021 at 5 p.m. Thank you to those who are listening to our live audio feed to hear us discuss the fiscal year 2022 budget. Just a reminder that live audio feed is no longer interactive. Those that wish to make public comments during the meeting are encouraged to attend in person in our socially distanced chambers or send comments to the town clerk prior to the meeting. Clerk Armstrong, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Cobb?
Here.
Mayor DeHassett?
Present.
Vice Mayor Broker?
Here.
Commissioner Pugh?
Here.
Commissioner Vichala?
Here.
Will you all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Are there any additions, deletions, or modifications to the agenda? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion on the approval of the agenda.
So moved.
I'll second.
That is a motion by Commissioner Pugh, a second by Vice Mayor Hurlbert. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0, unanimous. Real quick before I go into public comment, I just wanted to say a few words. I wanted to thank staff for all their hard work on this package of information. I'm sure it took countless hours to not only get it all together, but kind of cull it through. So, and that's quite a wish list. Just so everybody has a clear understanding, this is probably going to be quite a lengthy meeting. We will be taking a break in the middle, but we're probably looking at the minimum of 2 hours. So just to kind of prepare everybody. So with that, I'd invite anybody to come and make public comment on things that are not part of the goal setting discussions. What we will be doing is the commissioners will go through their goals and then we will open it up to public comment to comment on what our goals are. So, but if there's other public comment, please come forward.
Hi, Rick Carey, 39 Spanish River Drive, and I'm not sure you're on your last comment, but my time, we're leaving town tomorrow, so I'd like to make my comment now, and I'm sorry if it slightly overlaps.
Okay.
I'm coming to speak about Inlet K drainage issues. This isn't a new topic to this commission, and it's not one that's been ignored. Over the years, the commission has been very generous in the things that they've done to try to solve Inlet K infrastructure and drainage issues. I know Jeff and Steve, you were here in 2017 when the Higgins report was commissioned, but even before the Higgins report, work was done to raise the road on Eleuthera Drive and Spanish River Drive and a portion of Bimini. We are going to continue to need money set aside for both engineering and actual infrastructure work over the years moving forward. And that's why when talking to Tracy and Lisa, they encouraged me to come here and bring it up so it gets on the agenda, that people are thinking about it, and that we have an opportunity. Simply put, we have an elevation problem there. And just a couple of pieces of data that illustrate it so well from the Higgins report. The average ground elevation is 3 feet. The 2 foot is the crown elevation of the road in or below in most of the area, and 1 foot is the elevation of the water table. And there's a portion with the road crowned that where the drains are, that they're at even below the 1 foot water table level. So we have, and a lot of work's been done even since the Higgins report to get the drainage clear and improved, but it's based on gravity feed. And that's the problem, is that water won't go uphill. And in the Higgins report, it says during concentrated rainfall events, the water table can reach up to 2.8 feet. And that's the problem. You have a road that's between at the edges at 1 foot, at the crown at 2 feet, and the water up to almost 3 feet. And it's impassable, particularly in the area I like to call Lake Spanish River, which happens to be right along my property. And you know, we're going to have to come up with implementing more than one of the things that's in the Higgins report, but specifically until you get that road elevation high enough that we're going to get a gravity drain, none of the other infiltration and other systems that depend on gravity are going to work there. And there's some challenges. There's some challenges because of the floor elevation of some of the older homes. But what I compliment that several of you put this on your agenda list, and I'd really like to keep it top of mind. This won't be the last time you hear me bringing it up, because it's going to cost money and it's going to need to be planned out over a period of years. So I would encourage you to put some engineering money in initially and plan this out so that during the 5-year plan, we can get this resolved. So thanks for your time and attention, and thanks for the past help that you've done. The problem is that long ago, a developer in the town allowed this to be built incorrectly, and now we have to live with the consequences, and that's the reality. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carey, and safe travels. Any other public comment? Okay, hearing none. Town Manager Stevens, will you please provide us an overview for the goal setting determination of Town Commission fiscal priorities for fiscal year 22?
Yes, I'll try to make this as brief as possible. As you know, the Town Commission holds this goal setting workshop annually for the purpose of setting its goals and fiscal priorities for the next budget year. Commissioners have the opportunity to reach out to constituents prior to developing their list of goals, and the special meeting format gives the Commission the opportunity to hear from staff and residents on various issues and to review options in order to develop consensus on fiscal priorities for the town. There are several key questions to consider when developing goals and fiscal priorities for the town. Is the current level of service to our residents desired for the future? Are current staffing levels adequate to support the Commission's goals? Is the Commission committed to funding the 5-year capital plan that was developed last year, or do we need to change our course? We should circle back around to those questions as discussions progress during this meeting. Although the meeting package includes a project list that is based on the 5-year capital plan that was adopted by the Commission for the current fiscal year, along with budget requests from department heads, goals and fiscal priorities should be discussed before we dive into discussions about the capital expenditures for the next fiscal year, as the Town Commission's goals will be the driving force in those discussions. I know you've heard this before, but a potential revenue loss based on the effects of COVID-19 may create challenges for us in crafting the budget for the next fiscal year once again, as we conservatively project interlocal tax and other revenues. The anticipated federal stimulus money will aid in recovering our revenue losses, though, and the other good news is that ad valorem property tax revenues are projected to be stable for the coming year. Because we have been fiscally prudent in the past and have a healthy reserve fund, we are in a good position either way in regards to revenue stream. However, since the town has deferred maintenance on the town's infrastructure for many years, planning for those expenditures is on the rise. The capital improvement plan is a way for the town to begin saving now for much needed infrastructure repairs or replacement without having to pay interest through the bond process. Before the Commission begins discussing goals and fiscal priorities, I just want to mention that each department serves a distinct purpose, and each one is just as important as the next in achieving the town's goals. Focusing on fiscal priorities of the town as a whole should be the overall goal. And once overall goals are developed by the Commission, it is then up to staff to determine how to fund those goals townwide. Management will incorporate the fiscal priorities into the first draft of the budget, which will be presented at the June 7th budget meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. I will now call on each commissioner one by one to go through their list of goals and priorities for fiscal year 22, and we will try to come to an overall consensus with each one of the goals. Again, making sure that our goals are looking at the 30,000 foot level, not necessarily into the weeds, would be helpful. At the end of the commissioner reviews and the 29 projects requested by staff, we will need to give the town manager direction and consensus on the mill rate, percentage of ad valorem collection, and reserve status. So just keep those three things in the back of your mind as we kind of go through. I think it's premature to discuss them now. Better off to discuss them at the very end, especially after we've heard from the residents. So, having said that, Vice Mayor Hurlbert, will you please share with us your list of goals and priorities?
Here. So I started off, and they're not necessarily in this order, but for me, I started off with environmental proactivity. As we saw this morning at the P&Z, there was a lot of talk about landscape codes improvement. I'm talking into dune protection. Everything could use a little bit of a uptick here. Coastal Resilience Project is still, we haven't found the final end here, but we're hoping to get some suggestions and direction from them, right, after being part of that regarding sustainability. I've also got some feelers out with Pine Jog today and the other local municipals. Let's see, looking at green building practices. I think we discussed this with the building department, how to move forward with the environment is key, and looking to other municipalities for proactivity and their suggestions. Infrastructure, Mr. Carey brought that up, and that's ongoing work. We can all see from our different priority list there that we all, I believe we're all on the same page with that one.
You had at least 3 other commissioners who had that same goal.
Right, that's a big deal. Right now, our infrastructure is a big deal. So we want to just double check our priorities from last year, see what we've accomplished, and look to see what comes next. Street repairs, obviously, the signs were in there, not a high priority, but I threw them in anyway. And we've been speaking about finding other ideas and exploring drainage field options. And I know there's not a lot of things out there, but just throw it up. Let's see what we can come up with, because that's a big deal in our stormwater problem. Town tech, I think we talked through that. Over the time we've been using our audio and our lack of Zoom meetings and people wanting to be more on top of it, shall we say. So I think that we've all talked about.
There was
Staff.
actually, if I can interrupt for a second, there was a consensus from the commission to move forward with that
Right.
particular.
Staffing, I agree. Building needs help, and I saw that in our paperwork here, as well as maintenance needs help, because we're not getting any smaller, we're getting bigger, and our problems get bigger alongside. Old Ocean's always something to consider. Traffic, beach, pedestrian issues, etc. Resident task force, we heard a lot, probably pre-pandemic, about the problem with Airbnbs. I know at the moment in Tallahassee, we're kind of waiting to see where that's all going to go.
Can I interrupt you again? Sorry. We are currently as staff looking into a program through ProChamps, who we already use
Right.
for our foreclosure registration. They have a new program that we can tap into that wouldn't cost the town anything. We can tap into them and they'll keep track of those for us. So
Okay.
that's going to be really easy.
Oh, that'll help. Also, I had suggested, or we had talked about at one point, because we had a lot of residents talking about the issues with the Airbnbs, because we know we have the 30-day thing here, but people aren't always following up on it. So possibly involving residents and having a resident task force to take some of the paperwork, the research, and the effort off of staff's hands.
If we go through ProChamps, they will.
They do it for us?
Mhm.
Even better.
Yeah.
Okay, and then that, when we get into enforcement, some of this work is done for you, makes it easier for y'all to make the direct line to finding where our problems are. And then PR for the town. There was talk during the pandemic, or pre-pandemic, I can't remember at this point, about better PR for the town and what the town can do for the residents, et cetera. So as soon as we're all happy and safe and maskless, reinstituting our coffee with the cop. Durrani's building department monthly thing, I think, is fabulous. We just have to encourage more people to take part of it. And maybe some sort of new resident welcome thing once or twice a year that we can put out there. And then I've always, one of my priorities is doing what we can to preserve the character and the health of the town of Ocean Ridge. Working with P&Z, did Rick already leave us?
Yes.
Dave's here. So for, working with P&Z, because we're all working together on this to support each other and review or strengthening, updating codes and ordinances as necessary. There's some things on the books that are outdated, and there's some things that look good or maybe need to be shaded, whatever. As we keep looking through them, we can close it up with the concept of the whole community facade, looking towards enforcement and streetscaping. Any
Okay. Fellow commissioners, do you have any questions for Commissioner Hurlbert in any of her priorities? No? Pretty straightforward.
Good.
Okay, thank you. All right. Commissioner Cos, you're up next.
Okay, so I got a few items on my list, starting with drainage. I think our goal needs to be narrowed there to the most vulnerable areas in town. Rick Perry brought up Spanish River. And another focus should be on the Florida Department of Transportation, which controls the retention ponds on Ocean, which actually affect the flooding on Coconut, Ocean, and Hudson. And they have something called an emergency fund. And if you take a look at Hudson or Ocean on this last king tide, September and October, if you had an emergency, you would not be able to get down those streets. And that is due to, number one, the intercoastal, but mostly it's due to the retention ponds leaking. And the state has agreed to reinforce and enlarge the berms. And I think that if we throw the word emergency on it, they'll pay us more attention. Yet the DOT to do anything takes 2+ years. We can't really wait 2 more years like that. The grant work on septic to sewer, we've discussed that, no need to go into it. I think we ought to take a real hard look at trying to resolve these various lawsuits and claims against the town this year. It's only going to get worse and expand. The budget, the cost, and this will cause perhaps some discussion. We have basically a static population for over the past 2 decades. Okay, basically static. But the cost to run town hall and the number of employees continues to grow. This needs to be examined. And I have some statistics when we get to specific items on Tracy's list.
Can I address that number 4? So between 2000 and now, we've had a 10% increase in population. And the number of employees in town hall has not grown since 1994.
That's incorrect.
No, it's not, because
We had 3 people at the front desk. And
Right,
now we
but
have,
we used to have somebody in the
we
background,
have 5.
Michael Tate, who we had, it was a town manager's assistant. He was no
Okay.
longer there.
So maybe I
So
could
we're
get the
still at the
employee
same
list from
level.
then and now. Because it seems like that we're still a small town, but we're creating this bureaucracy that is self-preserving, if you know what I mean. In other words, you create something, and that creates something else, and that creates something else. And where does it end? I exclude the police from the comments I just made about the budget. And this will be something that Christine will say is in the weeds. But removing the bulletproof glass from town hall, I don't think that's in the weeds. I think that when the pandemic continues to die down, and we get to the point where everyone's comfortable, I can understand the bulletproof glass, or I can understand a barrier if the town staff feels uncomfortable during a virus period, during the pandemic. But to have bulletproof glass greet the residents when they walk into town hall sets a tone that is just not Ocean Ridge. It's just not Ocean Ridge. Crosswalk in Crown Colony, it's on Tracy's list. Private property rights, we've had this battle over the past 2 years. I expect there will be other ordinances coming up that will continue, and I'll always be on the side of private property rights as my goal. On the infrastructure, retaining ownership of our water pipes. I know that there was a committee that studied this, and there's some reasons to let Boynton take them over. But if you look at the long range, you do not want Boynton controlling anything in Ocean Ridge. Once they start that, you're talking a slow osmosis of Boynton coming into Ocean Ridge.
Steve, we have the analysis almost completed on that. We should be receiving a report soon, so I'll.
From the water? On the water lines.
Yeah.
Yes.
Home rule, I think the town is doing a great job. Somebody, I think Susan already brought this up. You guys are doing a great job staying in touch with the anti-home rule folks up in Tallahassee. Technology, I think this is a very big one. It's on Tracy's list as well. Specifically, the technology in town meetings. We're a democracy, and the fact that we've had difficulties over the past, 14 months now, in the residents being able to communicate with the commissioners during town meetings, that has to be an absolute top priority to get that technology in place as soon as possible. With all the new technology and the residents that we have here that are experts in this technology, I would expect to be able to solve this within the next 3 months so that you can stay at home and listen, not only listen, but participate as you see fit. And that's it.
Okay, I'd like to open up to commissioners, commissioner causes, goals, and some of his suggestions.
Did you copy my goals?
No, I think you both copied each
I didn't read yours.
other.
Can I just ask a question? Because I mean, this bulletproof glass that came about in the last few months, it was installed in the last few months, and the idea had really nothing to do with COVID and being a ladder glass. It had to do with the police department being connected to town hall.
I've done this with numerous staff members, and there was a concept of angry residents coming. Okay, and we're Ocean Ridge. We're not a prison.
I agree with you, but I believe that the reasoning behind that had something to do with the police department. That's why we put, I mean, why would we put bulletproof glass?
They need bulletproof glass in there.
Right.
It's repaired.
Yeah, we had talked about just putting a regular glass, and I think Chief Hutchins had recommended doing the bulletproof.
But for whatever reason it occurred, it's a mistake, in my opinion.
Chief Hutchins, would you like to comment, please?
If you'd like me to.
Yes.
The project came up as a request from the police department to replace the bulletproof glass in the police department lobby, which had cracked and was no longer serviceable. And part of that project, the discussion came up about securing town hall for both COVID and angry residents, as was brought up. Or contractors, how's that? Despite no contract. In doing that, I was directed to use the same company and to make sure that it was security glass and not just regular glass. And then we did try to make it so that it is functional in the fact that we can open it. I was directed to do one opening instead of two based upon how staff is spaced and how staff work space is used in that particular area. Certainly we can revisit it if that's what the commission would like.
Yeah,
Did
as
we
soon
have
as-
discussions about this with people jumping over it and having access into the police department?
Yes, we
through the
did.
door?
We did.
We did.
There have been all kinds of discussions about people taking over a lot of things in the recent
Well,
week. And I think that all played into a lot of our discussion when it was determined what particular product we were going to use. And we were able to get it at a reasonable cost compared to.
I'm not blaming anybody. I just think that no one
I'm
perhaps
not trying to make
envisioned.
excuses. I just want to make sure everybody has the full understanding that it was not a 1 minute, let's do this. It was a discussion. And unfortunately, the timing of this caused us to put in what we did. I don't think you can have a better trifecta in the last 20 or 18 months. How's that?
Okay.
so there's a possibility to also take that glass or take part of that glass out.
We can open the door.
One of the windows
It
is
slides.
designed as a service window and it can be left open.
Yeah, but that's
It
2
slides
feet.
open. And if we decided to change out something else, we can always revisit how we put the windows in. Down here can make that recommendation.
So we just spent what, $2,000 on that.
So the whole point was because of COVID and we were doing it at the same time as the police.
So we were able to get cost benefit from it. Yes.
It's,
There was a rather lengthy discussion on what particular glass and what design to use, that we got direction on the police department and maintenance side and work together to put something in as cost effective a manner as we could. That unfortunately, we tried to please everyone.
So was there a real fear from the staff of the people coming in? And were that many people coming in being
I think,
vociferous enough that they would cause fear among the staff?
I think people forget that sometimes people, before they go to dispatch, they come to us thinking we're the police department all the time. You know, and the police department, we are connected to it, which Chief has told me on many occasions that's not supposed to be the case. We're not supposed to be open because you can get into it and walk in those. We have this here, this door that you can only get with a key fob, or if we let you in. And people cannot walk into those doors unless you have clearance because we're connected to the police department. So it's kind of, if we're gonna be wide open, then we really gotta start talking about maybe separating the buildings or something of that nature, because it was my understanding that, hey, we have all these clearance to come back here, but yet we are so open if we take the bulletproof glass off.
Okay. Well, didn't we have a roll down metal thing before that?
Yeah. No,
That doesn't.
no real way to secure it. Somebody could poke their hand in it and.
Yeah, but I'm just wondering, where's all this fear coming from?
Yeah.
So, you know, we have it, how long has the town hall been here?
I don't think it was based on fear, it was based on security.
Security.
Police department.
Right, being connected.
no, it was angry residents was told to me numerous times.
And I don't think it's necessarily angry residents, because I think we all appreciate all of our residents and we get along with pretty much most of our residents.
Maybe you guys meant contractors,
Yeah.
but as far as the people coming in the front door to get to the police department, that seems pretty solvable by having a sign on the front door that says police department that way.
I mean, we do have the town hall over sign, the door, and people still don't read that.
But the door, I'm talking at the front door of town hall.
People don't read
Some people
it.
hide them.
People don't read
I
it.
know.
You want something
Police
like that
department.
instead of looking.
I would just like to go back so we can keep going. And have somebody maybe at the next meeting give us some idea on this clearance issues with the police department, because I understood, from what I understood, I didn't hear about the Angry Birds, but what I understood was it was a clearance issue because erroneously, when the town hall was laid out, there was no separation between the police department, which has files that are sensitive, thank you, and firearms and other things, and that all employees should not have the access to it, and nobody from the public should have the ability to get through there to have access to it also. It was a liability issue from what I understood, so if we could have that readdressed, that would be great.
Yeah, and the other thing is just installing a door on the hallway between town hall and the police department would solve it. There was a conclusion of events that caused this, and the outcome, in my opinion, is terrible for the town.
Okay. The only other comment I had on your number 4, Commissioner Cos, was I agree with you. We need to take a look at our expenses and not just keep expanding. But one of the things that has happened is that our homes have become more and more expensive. And I think along with that has come an expectation for a higher level of service from our residents. So that may be feeding into what's happening. That was just my first flush when I read that.
That, I would agree to that if the number of permits issued, the number of inspections done has changed dramatically since 2015, and it has not. So I have those statistics when we get to that part of Tracy's list.
Okay. All right. Next up, Commissioner Pugh.
I mean, I pretty much wrote down everything I thought of, except I did forget one major one. It was kind of a hurry. Natural gas throughout the town. I think that with all this discussion of the septic system, you're going to have to remember that with the septic system, we're going to have to use pumps to pump it up to the A1A in a lot of different places. So those pumps
either going to be diesel, they're going to have to have generators for a time that we have a hurricane and the power goes out. So if there's a generator at the top of the street on some of these areas where the bottom of the street is a bowl, and if that power goes out, then those pumps are going to not going to turn on, and effluent, like for a better term, is going to stay back in the bowl inside of these containment areas. So my idea would be to start out with a natural gas line throughout town, because one, it ends at Nalapan and starts again over at Goss Street. So, I mean, if we ran it through town, town's got about, give or take, 13 miles of streets. So if you run it through town, and I did it years ago, I did it in 2006, and the cost of the whole town to do every street was $1,372,800. And that was running the whole gas line through town. Now, I know it's probably going to be more, of course, since 2006, but I think it'd be something good to look into, that we could power not only the generators that we use now for the drainage, we could power all the generators for the septic system, which is going to happen sooner or later. People could power their generators for the homes, so we can get rid of the propane, which would actually be a little less expensive than propane. Natural gas would be a lot less expensive than propane. So it might be something we could really look at as a capital project and put it on we could think about doing in the future.
And you're coming up with that idea now that I spent $5,000 on putting a new propane.
I know, that's propane tanks, and you know, our building officials got to tell people, hey, sorry, it's too close to the property line, and you know, that's a huge thing, an infrastructure project that would actually benefit the town for years and years to come.
So you
that was
think
my major one.
dovetail it with the sewer project?
Well, I don't know if you could dovetail, because sewer project is going to be a project that, it's going to be a long, in my opinion, that's going to be a lot longer off than you can directional drill a natural gas line, so you're not tearing up the whole street. So by directional drilling, you could do this in half the time than you normally would years ago, where you literally had to dig the whole street up. I mean, everybody sees around town, that little machine that's out there, and they have that big roll of orange. That's natural gas line. What else do I got here? The change way meetings are structured. I said designed, but they're structured to allow for greater public input, because I still believe that the public comment for an action item should be after the commission discusses the item. Okay, and that's that crosswalk over A1 at Crown County. And speaking of the crosswalk at A1 at Crown County, also the going over with the folks over there on Fayette, their walkway to the beach. I think all that should be done this year. We should really get on top of that and get that completely taken care of. I know we're working on it. Street drain infrastructure needs repair. I think we're all on the same page with that. I think we should definitely to the road paving schedule. We've been putting that off for way too long. Lawsuit resolutions, I think we're resolving quite a bit of those already. I think basically what left is the Swain thing, which we're having a meeting about, right? Townwide beautification, I cannot stand the plastic signs. The yellow plastic signs with black lettering. I know it's a COVID thing, but as soon as that goes away, that'd be something I'd like to get rid of. I think a lot of the other signs in town need to be redone. We changed them to wood years ago, because they were metal at one time. Changed them to wood, and they're starting to look a little beat up. The community policing thing, I think, would be something we start working more of. I think a little more peace patrols. And that dovetails into the ATV thing on our budget narrative. Reduction of unnecessary work to town staff. What I mean by that is that some of the P&Z stuff, or a lot of the P&Z stuff, I think goes back and forth from P&Z to the staff, has to redo the design, go back to changing windows or whatever they're going to do. And I think I think we really need to look at that to eliminate the back and forth when somebody comes in with the plan. To kind of cut down a lot of that staff time on that. Review of all ordinances making back in the future. That is basically a couple of the building code ordinances that we've done. And I can elaborate more on that on a commissioner comment in another meeting. That really may come back to cause us a legal issue down the road. And the last one was work as a team with my commissioners and staff so I can accomplish all these goals. I think we can. I really do. I think there's consensus and everybody can compromise a little bit and get it done.
Any questions for Commissioner Pugh? Okay. I'm not sure I have the appetite to look at $1 million endeavor for next year, but it should be taken into account when we do look at road paving and we do look at septic to sewer. There's absolutely no need to create a hole and then cover it up and create another hole and cover it up and create another hole. So,
but you're not creating a hole. Your direction is drilling. And then the thing is, what about just getting a price? That's a simple phone call to Florida Public Utilities. That's all it is. So, putting a project off, at least get the price for the project. And that way you can actually, if you wanted to, you can put it as a referendum to the town people. If they can do it that way.
But I assume that goes back to the day when you were in 2006 sitting on the commission. Did you guys? It's Florida Public Utility that will basically provide the service because they're here in the area. Are they? If we're providing the infrastructure, the base infrastructure for it, and then, like in my case, I would immediately hook up to it. Would they not give us the credit for it? Would we still have to own the base infrastructure, or would they, because they are charging me as a resident a monthly fee, service fee, would they not recuperate that from the monthly service?
They would. The price that they gave us was basically installation of the line. And that was a 4-inch line, the entire length of Ocean Ridge. If you just did the line at that point down, the entire A1A was $286,000. That's it. So we asked them, okay, well, what about doing down every street? And that's when it came up to $1,372,800. And I calculated that out then, years ago, and there's 1,745 parcels, something like that in town of Ocean Ridge. It came to $333.33 per household. So it's something that, the thing is, you look at your other towns and you're doing it, and it literally will help the town folks just also reduce their cost of living here in the town, especially with your generator. I mean, your generator kicks on, and then all the other infrastructure we can have down the road.
Natural gas is so much cheaper than
Right. And Billy knows those diesel, those ones with diesel, the diesel comes up and it sits in the tank. We got to drain the diesel out. It's kind of thing, a lot of maintenance.
so do pool pumps run on natural gas? Do pool pumps run on natural gas?
I wish they did. The heaters do.
The heaters do.
The heaters all run on natural gas.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Commissioner Richlat.
So when I sat down and I did my goals, I tried to. There's some obvious things that I think are self-explanatory. Drainage is one of them. To me, I didn't feel the need to write that down. We have certain things in this town that are a priority. I think we all know where the priorities are. We all see where they are, and obviously they are on our sheet and they need to get addressed. So I didn't feel the need to make this as like my pet project, if you want to call it that. So my list has been a little bit different generated than some of the other commissioners. I'm basically on the top of my list was we need to address what our revenue is, how much money are we getting in, how do we get the money in, and how do we work with the money that we have. And the only thing is we have property taxes that we somewhat control. We have the millage rate that we control. This is basically the only control option that we have. We have the services that we provide, building services, services to residents, that we control to a certain part. And then point C is a penny saved is a penny earned. Whenever you save a penny, you're basically earning a penny because you're not spending. So cutting our spending is going to be one of our revenue, if you want to call it that, sources. On C, there's only certain things that we can do. And I will bring this up in every single one of these budget meetings as long as I'm sitting here. The biggest item on our list is our police department, not police department, fire, EMT. Some of them, again, we have control over, some of it we don't. And we should discuss it. And I'm not saying that we're outsourcing it. Certainly not. We shouldn't have outsourced the EMT and the fire rescue. But we need to discuss it. It's our duty to sit here and to actually discuss it. And if for nothing else, that we come up and say, everything is fine, we want to leave it the way that it is. But we need to discuss it. And that's on my budget list. That's one of the items that I would like to discuss. And the only pet project that I have is we have septic to sewer. Septic to sewer is a thing that I think should be dominant in our long-term planning and future. It's not going to go away, and we need to address it. It's a massive, massive problem. It's a massive project that we're facing. It's a capital project somewhere in the area between $20 and $30 million. A huge number. The biggest one that we've had to spend and to look into. As such, we need to start saving money for it. And there are certain steps, and those of you who had been in the septic to sewer conversion meetings that happened on the committee, there are several steps that precede the actual implementing of septic to sewer. One of them is an engineering expense, and the engineering expense, correct me if I'm wrong, Lisa, was somewhere about $5 million that was projected that we needed in order to do the proper engineering to actually implement it. We should save for that. We should at least have the funds ready that we can say we can move forward with it. And in order to create those funds, because we don't have $5 million in our pockets that we can just expend, we need to start making a commitment to saving those funds. And that should be on every resident, should be a burden to every resident equally. And I would like to see that we're discussing putting a added fee, whatever it's being called, into either our water bill or gas bill or whatever bill, to start saving for a dedicated fund for engineering purposes for septic to sewer conversion. Septic to sewer is coming. And it's just a question of when it's coming, but it is coming. And we will have to convert. And when we have to convert, we're going to be facing that bill, that $30 million. So the more we are prepared today, the better we stand a chance down the road when this is being put upon. That's why I put that as my pet project onto this particular budget. And the rest of the things are just our things that we have to deal with. And they're there, and we'll have to deal with them.
Were you here when I brought that grant right away on septic sewer? So maybe I'm not current on this. The gentleman put together the grant, we sent it off to the grant tours, and we're waiting for the money.
No, we were rejected.
We were rejected.
Yeah.
Even on strategy and engineering.
Yep.
Make too much money.
We were denied because it's not a big enough project and because our residents aren't low to moderate income level.
So that means that company can't do us any good. So we're gonna have to depend on the state giving us money, which they will at the time they mandate it.
So at no cost to the town, if another grant opportunity comes up, he will submit the same grant as long as the scope doesn't change, which it won't. He can resubmit that again in September when that comes up again. He won't
Thanks.
charge us any extra because the work is already done.
Okay, any questions for Commissioner Vichelak?
No, I just want to, you do know why we switched over. We lost our fire truck, and I don't know if anybody ever told you why. We never wanted to, because the police officers were, actually, they weren't police, it was public safety.
Right.
And they carried everything in the trunk. We had one fire, it was New Year's Eve. What year was that, chief? You remember?
Just before I came here, thank goodness.
Yeah, the guy had actually set his own house on fire.
Yeah.
But, public safety
Angry
officers,
resident.
and a new mandate came out from the state saying we had to have 4 people on. And of the 4 people, 2 had to go fight fire, 2 were in and 2 outside. Well, we didn't have 4 people on all the time. So another unfunded mandate by the state, so we had to get resold off our fire truck, and that's when we went to the city of Boynton Beach, so. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a choice. It was a choice, because we had that for how many years? We even thought about doing a volunteer deal, but that didn't fly too far. It wasn't a choice on the fire department, just so you know.
What you gotta do, put a call out at Josie's Bar?
I know.
Then again, we'll make the clock tower, just like we used to have.
All right, thank you for that history. Okay, finally, I will give you my goals. First and foremost is fiscal responsibility, and everybody has, I think, their own definition of what that is and what their comfort level is. In regards to the budget, I mean, I think we've already heard that it's going to be a tight budget year again. We have some unknowns, particularly the PBA negotiations is a very large unknown. So I think we have to be conscientious about that. I agree that we need to look at our expenses with a fine-tooth comb. I think we need to look at all of our vendor contracts and make sure that we are getting the best deal possible, and if not, renegotiate. I'd like to potentially look at a hiring freeze within certain departments just to make sure that we can retain what employees we have and we are not looking at layoffs. And I think we were very good about that last year. One of the things that I would like to see, and I know that municipal budgeting is different than corporate budgeting, but trying to really go back to looking at a balanced budget to start with, and then everything else is gravy that comes on top of it. So, and being conservative in our revenue projections. In regards to our 5-year capital improvement plan, I think when we get to it, one of the things I'd like to just take immediately off the table is all the low priority items. I don't think that there's any need for us to necessarily, unless there's one that really stands out to somebody.
There was one.
Okay, hold that thought. Okay, thanks. Yeah, we need to look at the prioritization. I think some things that are labeled medium potentially could be medium to medium high. It's kind of like, a steak, medium to medium rare. So, and just see what we can reasonably defer to 23. In terms of new improvements under fiscal responsibility, I think everybody has agreed already that Chambers audio system is something that is really important. I think along with that, we need to be more efficient as a town, and there's a lot of antiquated software that is causing our staff to invest a heck of a lot of man hours that could easily be rectified. Unfortunately, I'm not a software developer, but if I was, it seems that that's a good business, very lucrative business to be in. So those are not going to come inexpensively, but eventually we're going to have to get them done, particularly if we are going to not bring additional staffing on to do, to handle the caseload that we have. So in terms of sustainability, I'd like to see us come to some resolution, or at least move forward in a little bit more expedited manner with Ralph Tellis in regards to our pipes. And I think we've got a call coming up with that. But I think it's premature for any of us right now to answer whether or not we would want to maintain our infrastructure, because the report hasn't necessarily been released. But when we do look at that, I think we need to look at that as a long, you know, in the spirit of having a longer term relationship with Boynton, and the fact that they do provide some of our other service contracts, and potentially will do our septic to sewer too. So I would like for us to look at it as a 30,000 foot piece of the puzzle, not the puzzle itself. In terms of septic to sewer conversion, I would like for us to recommit the penny sales tax revenue to the fund. We have done that in the past, and I think we should consider doing that in the future. I'd also suggest that we consider allocating a portion of this American Rescue Plan stimulus money. Nope,
It's not
can't
gonna
do.
qualify.
Okay, never mind. And then I also agree with Commissioner Vishalak that we should start some type of non-ad valorem assessment per household to start to build up a fund. For a 10-year capital plan in Gulfstream, they had a $10 million 10-year CIP plan, and the way that they funded it was they did a non-ad valorem assessment per household to build up the funds, and then it kind of started to rotate through. So I think that rather than wait, because we can't even put a fork in the ground until we get that $3 to $5 million base money set up. So, and obviously flood mitigation is something that is important, and I think everybody's mentioned it. So it's not only drainage, but it's how to get rid of standing waters. And I think part of that effort has to also be educating our residents on what steps they can do to kind of help not exacerbate and actually reduce this runoff, and whether that's through swales, whether that's through changing some areas in their driveway, whether that's through adding additional green space voluntarily. I think most people in the town would be glad to help. They just don't necessarily know what it is. But I wish Mr. Carey was here, because there's a lot of poor stewardship in personal property on his island, in terms of people having filled in swells, or people having houses that have a pitch like this, and they just shoot the water right down into the road with no mitigation. So again, I don't think it is purposeful, and I don't think it's intentional, but I think education in that area would be something that would be good for all of us. I too would like to see some increased community participation. One of the things that I feel strongly, and this is my pet project, is that when we have very large financial commitments, whether it is a gas line or septic to sewer, I would like to see these be done through a town-wide referendum. So one of the ways that I thought about it is, you know, if an expenditure is X percentage of the annual budget, 60%, 90%, 120%, you pick the percent, that in order for it to go forward, it is an approval by the residents in a town-wide referendum, not just the 5 people sitting on the dais. And when you're looking at a $30 to $40 to $50 million expenditure, I think that the residents have the absolute right to help make in that decision making. So community education, I agree with Vice Mayor Colbert to continue our presentations by staffs and vendors. So whether it's on construction codes or how to deter iguanas and what you should plant and what you shouldn't, I think we're all anxious to get back to some sort of normalcy in keeping that going. The same thing with events. You know, I think we all miss our 4th of July. We miss our holiday party. I think there's ways to continue and build upon what we've got with some unique events, like we did the Santa Cruz around town. I think everybody really, really liked that. And that cost very little money, but it was a great community project. So I would encourage us to continue to look for things that are like that. And also, I'd like to preserve the character of the property values while balancing property rights. I think a lot of the codes that we have actually stand on their own, but it is always worth it to look at them and review them. They expire or they need to be changed, as things change within a community. But one of the things that we need to make sure that we do is that whatever codes we have, that they're clear, that they're understandable, that they're enforceable, and they're fairly enforced. I think in the past, they have not been fairly enforced. One person got enforcement, the other person didn't. And I think that that's where a lot of our problems and a lot of our angry residents have probably stepped forward and voiced their opinion on. So, any questions for me?
I just make one comment on the percentage of the budget.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a good idea, but the septic to sewer will just be mandated. So there wouldn't need a town referendum.
Once it's mandated. but
Once
state.
it's mandated. But if we're getting ready to spend $3 to $5 million on
Like if we
engineering
wanted to
prior
get
to
gas
mandating
lines,
to get
let's say.
ahead.
Oh, well, we're gonna have to do the engineering anyway. So that would just not use septic to sewer as an example of that.
Okay.
That's all. Like the gas lines, if you think that's a large part of the budget.
Other questions, comments?
Depends on where the gas line comes in.
All right, fantastic. Whew, we're actually moving much quicker than I thought. So I would like to now open the floor to public comment and welcome you to make comment on anything and everything that you just heard. Please.
Take the bus down?
Yep.
Okay. My name is Nicholas Arsali. I live 6017 Old Ocean Boulevard. And this is basically my first commissioner meeting. I understood that it was going to be a workshop and I'm going to come here, sit around the table, discuss with everybody. Was kind of surprised walking here, seeing the city attorney sitting there, city police there, everybody else here. So this is more like a commissioner meeting. It's not really a workshop. Change of discussion and everything. The other thing I can say, excuse me, it has to do with, we talk a lot about the changes, the budget for the next year, 5 years and everything. But the thing was missing is what is the city's revenue right now from the taxes and everything else? How does it compare last year to what actually was? How did it spend? How is this year so far up to date? Are we ahead? Are we right on the target? And where we are? And I didn't hear any of this conversation here as far as where we are. There's a lot of changes in the real estate in the city. I'm sure a lot of people, once they sell, obviously the property value goes out of the homestead, which was 500,000 to 4 million. There's a lot of income there. The city looked at this. The city really analyzed how much more revenue we're getting and where is it coming from. Other thing has to do with the basically the city services and everything. There's a lot of money coming for permits. How can make it more? Can cut the red tape to at least reduce the time goes into the permit and everything. And as an observer here, I see that we have a great town. The reason we were here for 12 years from 99 to 2012, we left, we went to Manalapan, and I'm back here because I love this town. I love the way it's been, and I think it should stay the way it is. It's a small city, and I agree with Steve, we don't need bulletproof in this town. This town is still a great town. We have the best police service here. We should keep it, not going out for sourcing the South Palm Beach or anything like that. Not. But the only thing I can say is we need to know where our budget is. And Steve talked about, the market talked about the sewer line being $30 million. And obviously there's a lot of options for the city, on money, a lot of other things. You can do it if you really benefit out of it over a long period of time, which is about overdue by now. It should be, we should have we don't have to wait until the government mandate us to do it, then everybody else to be mandated, and then there's not going to be resources, then you have to pay double because there's not enough resource out there. So This is my observation. I thought I'd share with you all. And it's a great town and hope that we all keep it up.
Thank you, Mr. Rosales.
Can I
Yes,
add
please.
really quickly?
Yeah.
So our first actual budget meeting where we discuss the revenues and the expenditures will be in June.
Oh, okay, perfect.
So this is more of a goal setting for the commission so that they can give staff their direction to craft the budget.
Okay, but it would be great if they know at least how much money. I mean, if everybody's asking all together for $1.5 million, you know,
We have a general idea.
yeah, we have, now we're expecting a lot more. Everything could be put in the pot, not really trying to prioritize which one should go and which one should stay.
I liken this to a child looking through the Sears Roebuck catalog right before Christmas and turning down the pages like mad. So that's what we're doing. We're turning down all the pages and then we go back and say, okay, what is it?
Lack of experience. I
They
apologize.
have a good point. We're labeled a workshop, so I know we have these various rules for public discussion, but if somebody wants to get up and discuss something additional, they can do that.
Absolutely.
The format is not a workshop,
It's
obviously.
labeled as a special meeting.
Well, my
Right.
my policy says workshop.
No,
Rule says
special
workshop.
meeting. Special meeting.
Look at your folder from.
But- I think it's up to us to make a determination that we want to hear like, comments from the public.
We got public comment.
So,
Thank you all very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Rosales.
appreciate it.
Other public comments?
Good evening, Dave Hutchins, 33 Harbor Drive North. Glad to see all of you. And since I can make some comments, I'm one of the members of Planning and Zoning Commission. And for those of you who have seen me, you know that I believe the less regulation we put on our residents and developers, I think the better off our town is. Sometimes I think we get too wrapped up in creating rules that aren't clearly understood or might just reflect the individual taste of one member of the commission at the expense of possibly the residents in our town. So we were given a broad authority at some time in our past, and our previous chairman, Jerry Gorey, said we're going to have to do this a little at a time to see how it works. And I think that sometimes we have gotten ahead of what's good for the town. I'm sure that there's other commissioners on P&Z that would disagree with me very much. This is just my observation. You know, you guys have called the shots, but what is going on with some of our zoning rules and codes can be very expensive and maybe not entirely well understood. So just keep an eye on what we're doing. And if you don't understand it, chances are some of us don't either. So
That's comforting.
I'm being honest. You know, we get so much stuff, it goes back and forth, and, you know, some of our meetings go 3 hours. Not lately, but it can be a real challenge. So thank all of you for what you're doing. I thank the emphasis on trying to be fiscally responsible. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comment?
I did receive one from Mary Kate Lemming,
Okay.
2 Harbor Drive North. Unfortunately, she could not attend the goal-setting meeting, but after looking at the backup material, I want to submit a public comment that I hope sidewalk repairs is within the budget for more areas than just Ocean Avenue. The town sidewalks are one of its most used assets. They provide for safety as well as pedestrian mobility and are heavily used by people seeking fresh air and exercise. The ones along A1A are in horrible condition at the moment as lawn crews and utility vehicles drive over these with regularity and crack the cement. In some areas, the sidewalks no longer are safe. It is not already part of the scheduled maintenance plans. Please add and budget for sidewalk repairs as a priority. And please continue to monitor driveways along A1A that flood because of lawn sprinkler systems and rainfall. Forcing pedestrians into traffic because of flooding at the end of driveways is a safety issue that should be more aggressively addressed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Fleming.
The sidewalks along A1A are the jurisdiction of the state, FDOT.
They maintain them.
Yes.
Yes.
So all we need to do is give them a list of what they need to fix, and they go and
Billy,
fix it.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, right away.
Their retention bond.
Mhm.
So Billy has been in contact with them. We've been actually assessing.
Does that also mean that they are liable for them? So if somebody trips and falls along A1A, along the state route,
On
on
the
the sidewalk, that they are supposed to maintain, then it's not the town that's gonna get into trouble over this. And
If it's the actual sidewalk, if it's a water main valve cover or something like that, then it's a little tricky. But
Okay.
yes, if it's the actual sidewalk, it's FDOT.
We did get sued, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. We got sued along the side. Yeah.
But it got dismissed.
Yep.
Yes,
Yes.
it did.
Okay.
That's all we have to town attorney say.
Yeah. Very quiet.
So Mayor, now that you have all accepted your goals, is there some sort of consensus direction on those goals for staff? Or do you all consent to every goal that's been stated?
A lot of them meld together.
They did, a lot of them did.
Well, I think there was complete agreement on the technology for the chambers, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
I think there was also agreement that drainage, and I'd like to go through some of the line items that, we're getting ready to, because some of the drainage is a higher priority than the others. And I think with a lot of our infrastructure, it's going to be a trade-off. As much as we would like to do the roads, if there's not big potholes, is that money better spent on a new valve or a pump station? I think that's just going to be trade-off, and that's really we're going to have to rely upon staff to really help us prioritize those, since they're the ones that have to fix them or deal with the aftermath afterwards. I think everybody mentioned at some point septic to sewer. I don't know if there is an appetite to start to build a fund or not, but I guess that's one of the things that we could talk about.
At the end.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at the end.
At not the end of this meeting, the end of the budget. If we have an extra 50, 100,000, you know what I mean?
50, 100,000. I like that number. I actually would bring it up much earlier in the budget cycle, but just so we know what we're dealing with.
By the way, I agree with your penny tax.
We've had that, and
We've already
we
had that.
Been going on for a while.
and we have $400,000 now in that fund.
Yeah, it's a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's growing.
It's a simple solution.
And
We've been taking the county's penny sales tax monies and putting that into the septic fund at about $108,000 a year, somewhere around there.
That's correct.
So let me go at this maybe another way. Let's take a look at what my goals were. Is there anything on this sheet that is not appealing to a commissioner? Go ahead, Mr. Pugh.
Well, I think we're going at this completely the wrong way. The reason for this meeting is we can't talk to each other in private.
Mhm.
So this goal setting meeting would be to inform the rest of the commissioners what our goals are. And then as a team work together. I don't think there's any the staff can look at our goals and say, okay, I can see where there's consensus in the different part of the goals, but until we give them direction, which I don't think this meeting's about giving direction. I think this meeting's about figuring out what the rest of us are thinking. And in that case, we can all say, then we can go commissioner comments, or during the regular meeting, bring something up to say, hey, let's make a motion, let's get a consensus together, and then give staff the direction to go and pursue, say, the price of the gas line, or say the repair of all the sidewalks, so whatever it is with some of these goals are. I think that is one of the main, this is my first ever goal setting meeting I've ever been to. It seems like a good idea. And I think it's nice to put a goal out there. Everybody else hears your goal. But at this point, to not direct staff to do something, I don't think this is the right thing to do. You do it at a regular commission. So,
Well, in order to help formulate the first budget, the first draft of the budget, they're going to need some direction, mainly on the three main things that we talked about for the end of the project. But like you said, we have been through this a couple of times and it does seem to work well. So
Well, it'll take a lot of labor out of the situation.
Correct.
We end up going through what did you call the catalog?
here's.
The Sears catalog. We
Correct.
go through it 5 times.
Mhm.
So a goal setting workshop, rather than get into individual budget items, I think you started to say, what are the goals that we agree on? So the town can then
Mhm.
go back through their sheet and lessen the number of items that you have based on what we think are the priorities. Because our goals can be lofty, but they really have to fit the budget. So we can only do so many things.
Right.
Correct.
So you had drainage, technology, there's probably only 4 or 5 large items that we would direct staff
Well,
to.
the next thing that we're going to do is go over the line item of the capital improvement plan. So that encapsulates, I think, a lot of what we're going to talk about. But was there anything, I will go back to my original question, was there anything that was a goal from a commissioner that other commissioners either strongly agree with or strongly do not agree with?
You have to say
I
something.
think, I think that, just throwing it out here now, as we start this meeting, it's a discussion of goal setting for the budget, because that's the big thing that's coming forward.
Correct.
So some of our goals were also wish lists that were, I don't want to say vagaries, so to speak, but some of them, like the PR. I don't think that's those things that I suggested in your discussion need to really be part of the
Correct.
pre-budget
Correct.
correction. We're talking about the big money items, things like even the bulletproof glass, even that's not a big budget item at the moment. So if we're narrowing down on the ones we all agree with, that's the direction that staff gets, is find the ones that we already obviously know, the tech, the infrastructure, actually stuff we have in the capital plan anyway, right?
Correct.
the thing, the way I look at this is, I think we are all, including the residents, we are all in agreement that the drainage issues that we have in town is, let's say, a major issue that needs to get addressed. It's also one of the most costliest issues that needs to get addressed. The question is, how are we addressing it? And while we're adding that to a budget and agree with Steve that, we can't just put a blanket thing out there and say, well, we need to address drainage. We need to address the drainage specifically in areas that are high risk at this very moment. So when we are doing those, and say we have areas that we need to raise the roads, or have areas where there's major construction going on, should we then, if we're on the same page in general about, for example, a gas line, should we not at that point talk to Florida Public Utility and see, well, you know what, we're ripping up the road. Would you like to come in and do we have a cost saving for something that we could foresee already us putting in? So, talking about, are we going to do septic to sewer? Are we going to do, I think basically what I'm getting to is we need to formulate a long-term strategy and then see what we have on the short-term strategy, what can be done together, or what we should look into at the same time to make it work.
And I totally agree. So I think we might be best served to go to the line items 1 through 29 and go through them. Again, if it says low priority, unless somebody feels strongly that needs to be included in our discussion, I'd like to go ahead and just kind of skip right over them.
I totally agree. The only thing I'd add is, this is the problem we ran into the last 3 years, 4 years, whatever. We have this list. We never have a number. Okay, we just told Tracy, all right, what's that number, Tracy? So at the next meeting, we say, okay, we have $8 million in revenue coming in.
Mhm.
We have the fixed costs removed.
Yep.
And I asked Tracy this last year, and she said it's very difficult to do. In private industry, it's not difficult to do. There are fixed costs. We have police and fire, but outside of that, there are other fixed costs in any company or town. So then we subtract that. Now we see what we have left to do some, they're not even wish list items at this point. They're very important things like drainage technology for town chambers and the penny tax to septic. But we end up, in the last processes, we end up not knowing what Nick was saying, not knowing how much money we have to spend and discussing items endlessly that on the final budget, we miss.
So I think that is the next round. I think, again, we're back to the Sears catalog, but Carla, could you put up the project list fiscal year 2022? No, the list itself, I don't know how readable it would be, but to give the public an idea, everything, if we included everything that has been in our 5-year capital improvements plan, we're looking at $781,000 worth of expenditures. And if we included every new request that came out from staff, it would be an additional $801,000. So we're looking at potentially just for improvements, $1.582 million. That almost doubles what we spent last year.
Well,
That's including the low price.
Improvement,
Correct.
right, but
And
we
that's also
don't
the
know,
low.
Correct.
the police and the fire are what, 4 point, what are you guys, 4.5 total?
4.5 to 4.8, depending on what the fire.
Right, so that's gone.
Mhm.
So we now let's pretend we have $8 million. So that 1.5 could be inside that, but we don't have a fixed cost.
Oh, I mean, there are fixed costs in every department budget. There are fixed costs and not fixed costs even within the police department budget. There are fixed costs in every department budget.
We need that sheet of fixed costs. Maybe in your accounting world, they're not called fixed costs. Operating costs, let's call it.
There are
That would
things
make
that
it
we
easy.
cannot change. There are things that we have to pay.
Right.
And
Correct.
basically, what Steve is saying is, okay, we know all the basic things. We need to pay your salary. We need to pay Carla's salary. So we know how much we're going to pay. How much is actually left after we
Yeah.
pay all of that
Exactly.
and pay our bills and pay
Yes, and that will be done at the
even the
next,
sheet.
that will be, that will be done at the next meeting. So what I'd like to really
Right.
try to get us to refocus back on is what has been proposed by staff of these 29 items and what the appetite is to look at having it potentially included in the next year's budget. For instance, we'll start with number one. Number one was street sign replacement program at $7,000 as a low priority. None of our signs, I think, are so shabby that we could not live without them.
And you know, if we do have a sign that goes down,
Right,
we're
we
gonna
agree.
fix that.
We're gonna,
So just
so,
nix it.
sorry, okay. So we're on the roll now. Okay. So number two would be the town hall AC units at $7,500 a piece. There's 11 AC units. This is a maintenance and a replacement line item. I guess my question back to staff would be, what is the age and the condition of each of these units? I know that we're only getting about 5 to 10 years from them because of the coastal environment. It says it's a medium priority, but I gotta tell you, if you had to live without air conditioning in this town hall, it would really switch over to
Yeah.
high priority
Totally
really
agree.
quick.
Yeah, but what I think we did last year was, the reason why it's medium and not high priority, what we did last year was, instead of budgeting 7,500, we just said, okay, well, it's a contingency line item.
Okay.
And if it happens,
We
so
can-
we need to replace it, we'll take it out of contingency, right?
So we're striking this
Why
from
don't we
this.
even put it in? Yeah, so when you do that, normally if something breaks in the town hall, then it has to come out of its contingency fund, it needs to be done. So when it breaks, replace it.
Well, we
Yeah,
also
so
need to know
depending
what the amount to budget for that contingency
Right,
fund
right.
is. So
Right,
we-
but
we
so
need to-
Tracy's gonna keep a list of these things we're striking that should be in contingency to start.
Correct. All right. The next is number three, which was the seal coat and stripping of the town hall parking lot.
Striping.
Striping, thank you. Okay, I was trying to get a little, okay, low priority. If it's low priority, I don't think that we need to go. Okay, item number 4, police department entrance door, ADA setup, high priority.
The door's broken, we need to replace it.
I said hi, yeah.
Makes an eye. I don't think we have any choice. Number 5, maintenance of town hall facility, $20,000, low priority. This is for saving money for replacements and repairs and also painting. That town hall has not been painted since 2008. So while it's a low priority, I think we just need to keep in mind that eventually it's going to come up.
So here's what I suggest here, and Billy could do some of this, I think that's throw more work at you, Billy. But if you haven't painted the building that long, it gets these little tiny spider cracks, and then the water intrudes in the spider cracks, and pretty soon you have a bigger problem. So I don't know if we could hire a firm for $500,000 to check the building for these spider cracks and see if we do need paint, number one. Number two, I talked to Rich Moore, who was involved in the various roofing around town and here in town hall. And he said, basically our roof should last till about 2038, right? So I don't even think we need to worry about the gabled roof he's talking. However, he said on the flat roof, and I never looked up at the flat roof, maybe Billy's been up there. He said you should check that because putting that inexpensive seal on it extends its life dramatically.
Okay. So there may be a compromise. I do like the idea of having some type of assessment of potential repairs.
Right, if we spend $5,000 now.
Sometimes the cleaning and the painting is a preservation in itself.
Why don't we just get a price on the painting?
I have.
Yeah.
Just get a price on the painting. But
We
but
have,
how, has anyone else not painted their house in 10 years? And we have an investment here in this town hall that we're still paying for.
Billy, how much was it?
14.5.
So we already put 10,000 in there, so put $4,000 in it. Let's paint the dang building. I mean, think of it this way, how much money do we spend in building this town hall? And aren't we still paying on the loan?
Yes,
And when does the loan go away?
2025.
2025. So we're still paying, this is our investment. This is the town's investment, all the townspeople's investment in this beautiful town hall. We haven't painted in 10 years.
so the $10,000 has already been expended or is?
That's just town commission approved 10,000 FY 20 for 21 for this purpose. So if it's 14 grand, put another $4,000 on it, let's paint the town hall.
You want
You
item
may
5?
have saved already for 2 years, I'll
Yeah.
check on it.
Okay.
You might have enough
Right.
already.
So that we can fix one of the air conditioning units with the rest. of
There you
them.
go.
Perfect.
That thing continues.
But
Yeah.
So
I,
should we even take it out of here if we already have the money?
Well, this is
So
for
far.
saving for the roof too.
Right.
You know, it's a.
Like all the roof,
It's not
right?
even just painting.
I think Jeff's point is it's not a low priority. The painting, forget about the roof.
Painting's not a low priority. This
It's
is
preservation.
town halls are, this is our jewel in a town hall. Now, police department, I was saying the police department, but this town hall, I mean, we took a lot of, like the old town hall, we really made a beautiful town hall. I think we should make sure that we keep it right. Keep, after 10 years not painting is not doing our due diligence.
okay, so do we have consensus to at least add another 4,500 if necessary and go forward with the painting of the building?
Bring the priority up.
Yep. Yes? Yep.
So I'm marking number 5, 14,500. That basically.
4,500.
I
We
know.
might not need any.
14.
Right, we might
Yeah,
have.
have the
I've already
number.
got 10.
No, I'm just looking at the total.
So do we want to change priority term so we can all know that we've agreed to make this happen?
Well, if we already have the money, that would be the
We
consensus.
should
So
go find out.
we go ahead and do it.
All right.
Okay.
Fire hydrant repair and replacement. I had just a question for these fire hydrants that are within the gated communities or there's responsibilities of the HOAs. Who care? I know that they are responsible for maintaining them but do we ever get a report on how often they've been inspected and who takes care of them? Because, I mean, just because they're behind a gate doesn't mean that we want any of our residents to be in the same situation that we were in.
That is a great point, because I thought the same thing. Because what if the house is burning down and it just flies over, to the next street over? Then
Yeah.
So Billy and I are already working on that. We're developing a program so that they report back to us on that. We're developing a letter to send out to everyone. We just have to have the time to sit down and do it together.
Who did they report to now?
Nobody.
They report.
Do we not have to report to Boynton Beach Fire on this?
Yes.
Right, Boynton checks ours.
Yes.
So,
And we
so
had
we
to
are
check ours.
responsible for the fire hydrants in the private communities?
No,
No.
No.
Well,
That's
we're
what I'm
responsible,
saying.
but at least to report them, right?
Is Ron Kern still here or guy from Ocean Chuck?
no, unfortunately
So we
not.
The fire marshal does go
We
down.
replaced ours in my development last year through the people that work with y'all, and Boynton came out and did their,
They inspected.
right, they inspected it, but the concept of having everybody be on the schedule, because as you said, something goes up inside a gate, doesn't make it stop there. So
And it may
y'all are
not,
working on this,
it
right?
may not be a
Yes.
large revenue stream, but if, as Billy has sharpened his tools and is now, got a fireman's hat,
Does everything.
it may be opportunity for us as a town to do those inspections for them as a fee, or the maintenance for them as a fee, if we had the bandwidth. I don't know if we have the bandwidth or if it's something that we'd even be interested in, but.
Y'all are working on it. Check into it. Let us know what you think.
Yep, will do.
Okay. I don't think that although it says, why does this say medium versus high?
I don't get it. This is life safety. This should not be always a high.
We have 5 hydrants between the ages of 1965 and 1977 that we need to do this year.
Are they broken?
I have a few that are leaking slightly,
Okay, so
but
they need
when
to
they
be
start to
replaced.
get that age, that's what I'm looking for this upcoming year, is to try and be a little more proactive
Do
than all of a
we
sudden
maintain
we,
those old fire hydrants? Are they ours?
or I have
Auction them
them.
off on eBay. Really?
Yeah.
Sure. I'd buy one for my dog.
Okay, so can we look at this number with the 5 hydrants in mind? Is that how we came up with the 60,000?
No, it will reduce. It's not gonna cost 60,000 for only 5.
Okay, again, though, a lot of what the capital improvement plan is about is also saving money for the future.
That's where the 60,000 came in.
Right.
But hang on.
15 hydrants in town will need approximately 4,000.
Right.
Right. So 5 need replacement, but in overall, there's 15 that need a little bit of effort.
So the 60,000 takes care of the 5 new plus the 9 more that'll need repaired. Okay.
Right. I agree with Commissioner Vishalak. This is not something that I think we can kick down the road, and I think we just need to
High
go
priority.
forward. High priority. Let's switch that from medium to high if everybody's in agreement.
I honestly don't even think that should be coming here on each year on this list. It should be something that is
Fixed cost.
automatically, yeah.
Fixed.
Agreed, but
This is not, there's really no discussion about it. There shouldn't be a discussion about fire hydrants working.
Right, but didn't we just start this program, right?
Yes.
That's why,
This was
that's
under
why it's here.
maintenance.
But going forward, when we get them all up to speed, then putting them in that grouping would make a lot of sense.
gotcha.
No.
Number 7, wet well maintenance for pump stations at $15,000. I think we have no choice on this.
Yep.
This is 3 pumping stations, so going forward. Number 8, beach crossover repairs at $15,000. This is for Thompson Street and Korean crossovers. They were looking for a replacement last year, and
Thompson and Corinne are being done now, right
Okay.
here. This will be for Porter Street.
Can we just do something? We just fix the boards over there.
no,
What are you doing over there? Let's mess around.
You know,
fishing.
I'm patching it up.
Keep keeping it going.
Now, is Porter Street the one that does have the lookout and the
Yeah.
place to
Yes.
sit down?
Yeah.
And is 15,000 pretty tight on,
We should be right there at the 15 to redo, instead of putting boards sporadically to get that back in order the way it should be.
So you would replace the entire decking?
Yes, all the decking and rails.
In my, and you were not in the staff meeting, in the last staff meeting, in the staff meeting, were you there? I don't know. No, I don't think you were. So what I said was, what we're doing is we're using these pressure treated boards.
they're, for one, they're toxic. Because there's chemicals that are being pressurized into these sports. But they're also warping. And it's a natural thing that these things warp. They have all this fluid pressed into them, and then they dry out in the heat in the sun, and they start warping. And then over a period of 15 years, you're gonna start seeing splinters coming through. And now we're having people going barefoot over these boards.
So what is your
Yes,
suggestion,
but that-
Commissioner Vishla?
So when you look at the walkway that was done by the county to the nature preserve, that is actually E-pay.
Yep, that's what I'm using at the two
There you
new ones.
go.
And that's.
You could have saved us a lot of time, Billy.
You wanted to know.
That's what's
what
going
I-
in Corinne and Thompson.
And I know it's more money.
It is.
I mean, you know, if we have to spend another $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 on that, I think we should consider it because it lasts
Lasts
longer
longer.
too.
Then you have to replace
So we're
it.
not-
So
So having what we just went through with two beach crossovers being closed, obviously, and we've always known this, beach access is one of the reasons that we live in this town and we pay the fees that we do and we take pride in what we have. So I don't consider this a low priority. I consider this a high priority in terms of quality of life.
yeah, absolutely, but it's just up to Billy. Do we need to do it this year? Or are you gonna spend, $4,000 or $5,000 over this year anyway, repairing it?
I'm getting pretty close to this year's already with the two I'm working on right now.
What do you mean by pretty close?
My budget for this year, between doing Thompson, Corinne, and repairing Diamond Beach, I'm real close. The allocated funds.
So we need to allocate it anyway, because something's gonna come up
Yeah.
in speech and it'll be focused on Porter in the budget.
Yes.
Yeah, does
So
that mean that-
we can come back to you at the next meeting with a price for the different
But
material.
in his budget, in Billy's budget, there is already a line item in there that for beach crossovers,
No, it's this.
it's just this.
Yes.
So all he gets is 15 grand to fix all of the crossovers all around town throughout the year.
So the question is that a number that you can live with if we are anticipating you using better materials? And so that's what staff will come back
Yes.
Yes.
and give us. Okay, all right. Number 9, pump repair and replacement at Tropical and Woolbright pump stations, $70,000 high priority. Again, I mean, we can't go back to the days where we had waist deep, water on Tropical. So I don't think we have a choice here.
This is a very low estimate too, by the
Yeah.
way. If you look at how much it really costs for each pump, it's expensive. 70,000 is very low.
Yeah, one pump at 32.
Again, this is building reserves for as we go forward. It is not an immediate, we're gonna change this one pump station tomorrow as soon as we budget it, correct?
Yep.
So I have a question for the town engineer. To repair one of these costs $27,000 versus buying a new one costs $54,000. So would it make sense to always buy a new one? I'm just not familiar with the kind of mechanics involved.
Well, the thought was to pull some of them out
Yeah.
to see if there's something we can do to rebuild it.
Yeah.
And reuse it.
So it makes sense in your mind to rebuild something that's going to be
Yes.
submerged versus buying a new one.
Yes,
If
the
we
new ones are very
I don't know the
If we
answer.
can rebuild, if there's some kind of a bearing or something small that we can repair and be proactive, let's make that repair and
Okay.
utilize what we have.
Thanks.
So the rebuilding, Steve, is basically all the internals of a pump are getting taken apart, getting replaced.
Yeah, they
But
rewind
the housing itself of the pump stays the same. The housing is not something that
I
breaks
got you.
typically.
Just what is the life cycle on a pump like this? 20, 30, 50?
If you take care of it, it could probably go another. It's been 17 years. We
Mhm.
have not pulled a pump.
Good.
It's really good.
That's good.
And tropicals are the
Oh, yeah.
bad element.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It would be great to say we could go another 17, but
So minimum.
I think it would depend on, let's have them observe it.
Right.
Get it out, observe it, and then we can ask them what their opinion is as to how much more do we have on this particular pump.
Take a look
They
at it.
vary, it varies.
Right.
If you get another 10 years, that would be wonderful. All right, number 10, drainage, stormwater, and other infrastructure, $415,000. This is broken down into 5 different components. So I think we just need to go component by component, right? The first one is a curb replacement or flow regrade for Coconut Lane mid-block. That's $75,000. My quick question to this is, part of Coconut Lane when it was done, I believe that there was also swales that were requested from the residents. Is that correct?
The residents were proactive and said that they were going to maintain all the pipes underneath their driveways. And so it worked for a little while. And now Public Works is spending time cleaning out individual properties' pipes. And so we have this down as a medium priority. However, understand that the folks that have committed to that are either not there anymore or do not care anymore. And so
So the commitment was a verbal, or is it attached to the property, or what?
it was pretty much a verbal commitment.
So it's screwed.
Well,
But this goes back to, again,
Yeah,
educating the residents and hoping that they would do something that would help not only themselves, but the entire neighborhood. So I'd like to see us, before we spend money to do the town's portion, which may not solve anything if they've still got blocked pipes, to really start to work with the residents, door to door, and say, this is what we need and this is how we need you to help, and see if that helps at all. I mean, because that curbing is pretty high. Now, to your point, Commissioner, I think that there was a lot of intrusion because of the retention pond. Is that correct?
Yeah, I guess what you're saying is we request that the residents clean
Right.
out their pipes.
Right. Educate
See
them
what
as to
happens.
what will happen.
All right,
My question, see, this is one of those things, is the curb replacement. If we're spending $75,000 there, the question is, what Steve had raised in his goal setting. This is Coconut, Hudson, at least part of Hudson is definitely one of those candidates where we actually have to look into in the near future, raising the roads. So if we're raising the roads, why would we build curbs right now and spending $75,000 in curbs instead of actually putting an item that we might have to spend $300,000 and $400,000, but something that we will have to spend anyway, instead of putting 75 now, then ripping them out 3 years from now when we actually have to raise. So that's
I get it.
Absolutely.
So there's a low priority, or actually a zero priority in my opinion.
I
Because, I
agree.
mean, you really just send them a letter, saying, per the town's agreement with this property, you're asked to please keep your pipes clean. There's some big ones like that.
Yeah.
But the point is that doesn't work, and you send code enforcement over there and just give them a little nudge, hey, you gotta keep the pipes clean because of the fact that you're backing all the water up. Otherwise, we're gonna go and we're gonna rip out the pipe, and we're gonna put in a swale there, so when you go to park and bring your car up from your driveway, you're gonna be ripping off the front of your car, so you pick.
Yeah.
But
I agree. So let's start with a
A nice
request
letter.
and an
Right.
education.
There you go.
So just so I keep
We'll put your name at the
mapping.
bottom.
Yeah.
Come on.
They
should have a
should,
bunch
but-
of grass sticking up there, and
It seems,
water doesn't flow anywhere.
So are we removing Coconut from high priority, or are we subtracting the money from the?
I think we should just take the money completely out.
yeah,
So
let's
that
let's get
item-
FDOT to do their retention. Let's get,
And Tracy's gonna send the letters.
yes.
Well, no, I think
It'll
that,
be staff.
You got
Right,
both.
right, right.
well, whomever, but you just named them.
So we
There you
start
go.
with
We're
the
back to the
request
first
that they
one.
clean out their pipes, right?
What's that?
Start with the request that they clean out their pipes.
That's it.
Right.
We have it.
Okay. Okay, raised cul-de-sac on Spanish River Drive, 0, defer to fiscal year 23.
Yeah, and the reason why is because we really have to wait for the property owner to raise their property before we're able to do that. And we don't know if they're gonna be able to do that in fiscal year 22, so let's wait for them to do it and then we'll budget for it.
Okay,
But I do agree with what Rick said. The town should commit
Yeah.
that when we're ready, we do it.
Yes,
right.
that's why it's on the list. So that
Exactly.
it's
It is on the
visible
list.
and you know.
Yes, already there.
and with these raising of elevations, obviously, because they are now having to, these houses, 47, 48, would have to comply with new regulations of catch basins and all kinds of other things.
Well,
You
that
did a
was,
lot of work.
this was the cul-de-sac that was never upgraded on the island. So this is like the last one, the lowest one. And so, yes, we would have, well, we, as the town, it's in our right of way, would have to upgrade the catch basins accordingly. But we can't do that until, like they're saying, we have a homeowner at elevation 4. When high tides, king tides can rise to over 3. You can't raise the road and flood private property. So we've been told that he's in the process
Yeah.
of raising his house 5 feet.
Right.
And if he does that, that'll give us the ability to raise our
That
street.
homeowner told me directly he is doing it.
So again, my question is, when he raises it, and he's now got a driveway that's got a pitch like this coming back into the street, are we requiring drains and everything
Oh.
on his property to mitigate the least amount of water going back into the public right of way?
So he'll have to come in with a site plan that will have to address the retainage per code.
Okay,
Yes. So the
Okay.
answer is yes.
thank you. All right,
It'll be an 8, right?
He'll be
Give it an 8 and an ABD by the time he's
He stated a 5-foot
Yeah.
lift
so he put
on
him
his
at 9.
foundation,
I don't know how they do that.
done. He doesn't have 1 foot less on his house.
which would put him at
Yep.
9.
Okay,
He's gonna have 4 foot 6.
so we're moving on then to the catch basin upgrade and valve replacement. I think that this is just a given, right?
Right.
Okay, stand.
So I had one dumb question. Doing all this won't have any effect down at 47, 48. It's 2 separate pockets of water. Yeah, that's right.
Again, with the valve replacements, I know I'm preaching to the choir, but I want to make sure that these are all part of our routine maintenance plan. We just don't put things in and then ignore them for 10 years again.
absolutely.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Okay, bridge repairs. The 3 islands, Inlet, Sable, and then Island Drive or Harbor Island. When was Harbor Drive bridge done?
Install.
Mhm.
You have the records on that? When
No.
we created that
Which
bridge?
one?
Harbor.
Which one?
Island Drive.
I would say when the plat was recorded, probably in the 50s or 60s.
Yeah, we
But it
rebuilt that
was,
bridge.
yeah, but it was rebuilt.
It was around 2000, I want to say between 10 and 12.
Yeah, we rebuilt the
That
whole
was
bridge.
rebuilt.
So
Yeah,
that's why I guess I'm scratching my head
whole
as to
bridge is
why,
rebuilt.
yeah, why it would need any repairs whatsoever, but,
It was inspected by FDOT and based on their report, there are some repairs that are needed at this time.
okay, again, all of these repairs are the things that we could potentially, without causing any further damage and or any liability or safety issues, move into fiscal year 23, or is the idea to start saving a little bit of money now?
No. to get it
The
done.
DOT is expecting us to complete this within 24 months prior to, because they inspect every 2 years.
Wow.
So FDOT can tell us what to do. We
Right.
can't tell
Yeah.
FDOT what to do. That's what I'm hearing.
By the way, from an engineering standpoint, the Inlet K Bridge,
Mhm.
the bridge repair won't help that flooding issue at all, right?
No, these are issues with respect to spalling of the concrete, major, cracking,
Okay.
more structural, this is more of a structural issue, not a drainage issue.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah. God, this is our fire hydrant of the year, right? One of the things that I'd like to suggest is potentially looking at the cost of dredging underneath those bridges at the same time. We, we have a lot of people that use those bridges on paddle boards and kayaks and a lot of residents. And when, at certain times of the tide, you can't get underneath that bridge whatsoever. So I think that there, may be some silting that has just occurred naturally over the years. It's nothing that we've done to exacerbate it. But if somebody's under there and it's an extra $10,000 to clean it up.
We can look into that.
If I could ask a question, so you're gonna dredge the ground under the bridge, are you saying, so that people can get underneath the bridge easier?
Mhm.
So what's your lowest point of water? Are you estimating that people can't get underneath with a kayak? Because if I dredge the ground, it doesn't lower the water level. The water level stays the same. Okay, so I can dredge until to China, and I'm still not gonna be able to get underneath if it's high tide. See, your water level doesn't change, your water level stays the same. The tide stays the same no matter what. You dredge the ground underneath it, you're just making it deeper for your draft of your craft, not the depth of water underneath the bridge. This, from the water to the top of the bridge, is not changing.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering what the dredge is for. Dredging is for.
Well, I guess there's not a lot of big draft on a paddleboard, so you have a very
You
good
didn't go
point.
to engineering school.
No, I did not go to engineering school. Okay, scratch that. All right,
So we're keeping 240?
I think we have no
Bridge
choice.
repair,
right?
yeah, gotta have.
I mean, what,
DOT said.
can we go back and negotiate with DOT and say we need an additional 6 months or additional 8 months or?
Put it off, you mean?
Yeah.
Until next budget.
How bad is the
That's the
condition of
question,
it?
is right.
Well, I mean, they're making these statements to make the repairs so that it doesn't become a safety issue. So it's not a safety issue yet, but
When is the 2-year
it could.
DOT window extend to?
Okay, so one was done in September of 2020. So they expect it to be complete by
By 9/2022.
I mean, fully complete,
Mhm.
because they're gonna come back and
So
do
it
that
has to be in the budget.
reinspection.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. And hopefully if we can do them all three together, it would cut the
Save some
cost down.
Right.
These costs are like, if you choose one, that would be the cost. So hopefully we can come back and say we could do all three for less than adding all three.
These are the bridges that lead to residence islands. And if we're not doing it, and DOT comes back and inspects it and says it's a safety hazard, they're gonna shut it down. And then we're gonna be having ferry services between,
But we are.
I wouldn't mind
we are
that.
doing it.
right, we have to do it. It's not a
I need
choice.
that dredging again.
Yeah,
There you go.
more.
Think about this, shouldn't we almost start budgeting this as a normal occurrence, because as the water level is rising,
Mhm.
we're having higher tide. The problem is that water's getting up underneath the bridge, and that's just calling it spalling.
Was that what's causing?
And what happens is water, and what happens, wave actually gets up and then in between the concrete,
We should
and
consider
steel,
raising
and
the
steel
bridge.
expands.
To the metal.
When it expands, it cracks the concrete.
Good point. And if you look at item number 26, that's what that's for, bridge and seawall infrastructure repair and replacement. We haven't put a price on that yet, but that's what, we open that up for conversation for.
So somebody just out of the box said, should we be looking at raising the bridges? I mean, what are we talking about? $1 million to,
Yeah, but how do you do
Not
that?
great.
You
It won't help.
Bigger
It won't help because it's flooding into the apartment buildings across the lawns. So now you'll just have a nice bridge that's dry and everything else will be flooded in. Have you seen it? Yeah. It's remarkable.
The concept of knowing we're going to continually have maintenance issues on this and being budgeted ahead of time for that.
Yeah, that was a good suggestion. Okay. Sidewalk repairs, Ocean Avenue. Again, I don't think we have any choice.
Well, I had a question on that. The FDOT is telling us fix the sidewalk. Meanwhile, they said they will get to the retention pond, which is then gonna rip up the sidewalk that we just paid to fix.
The sidewalk, because there was an agreement that was made, because we upgraded the sidewalk to brick paver.
I read that,
It's
but
given us, has given us as the town the responsibility of fixing.
right,
I
but
don't know when or how they're actually going to fix these retention ponds. In the meantime, we have a potential trip hazard.
I understand
And
that,
so-
but
But maybe we should build into their contract, and when they do fix those retention ponds, they are responsible for any damage caused or repairs needed to the bricks.
Bringing it back
Or-
to the condition it was in.
or
when they
use it as
started.
leverage to get the retention pond done sooner than later.
You know, we can, it's up to you. I
Who
mean, we
talked to
can,
DOT? Is it Tracy or is it Lisa?
we all,
Yo,
And all on.
who's the point,
Everybody.
who's the point person on something like this?
Right now, it is Sean Dolan. It's a
No,
subsidiary.
our point person.
well, it depends on the issue. We all work together.
But I guess maybe to your point, there's so many issues that are tying FDOT together. If we elevated this one step up in FDOT and said, listen, these are the 3 or 4 things you've asked us to do. Here's what we want to do. We got to have, a little bit of a horse trade here and get going.
And the flooding is an emergency.
Mhm.
So they have stated that the state budget has been affected by COVID, and the projects that we had in play, which includes Engel and Anna Street along A1A, the 2 detention areas on Ocean Ave, north and south, and issues regarding sidewalks within the A1A corridor is supposedly hindering their ability to pay for these projects. So they've
But we
been
could say
delayed.
the exact same thing.
Right.
We could use the
Agreed. I'm
exact
just saying,
same.
agreed. I'm just
Yeah.
saying that's what has been said to us.
So at what point would it be beneficial to us to potentially, let's tie it all together into a larger picture? If we can't elevate it to somebody else higher up in FDOT, I think that's the time that it might be worth getting involved with some of our district elected higher ups. I mean,
But you guys should hit DOT with the sidewalk retention pond
On
issue.
their own,
Right, and see what happens.
from us.
Yeah. And then definitely we gotta remember to put in the contract, they're gonna repair the damage to the
Right.
sidewalk.
Bring it back to how it was. If we have to do it first.
So at this time, would we like to also entertain potentially setting aside some money for, I know the A1A is supposedly FDOT, but I mean,
I'm thinking-
is there anything?
I don't think we can touch that. How many square feet? It's not our
Billy, do
property.
you know how many square feet it is, or Lisa, on the pavers, sidewalk replacement? How many square feet?
Isn't it the entire road
It-
on both sides?
Yeah, it's on both sides.
Both sides of the
They've
road.
inspected everything, both sides,
A lot.
from the bridge all the way.
Mhm.
And they've inspected it, so they've
We need
already
we need
told
to
us.
fix
it's
the whole
trip
thing,
hazard.
or we just need to fix certain areas?
Certain areas,
So in certain areas, they're taking the pavers
they have
out.
come up, there's about
Resanding
15
it.
different areas up and down, and the curbing is grade away from the block up towards
I've
the
seen some.
bridge embankments.
Going up to the bridge.
Yep.
Going down to there. Yeah. So it's a lot of space and pavers.
Put it in hold. If you're gonna walk, on my favorite, pay for the maintenance. Okay,
So the discussion was bringing up also at the same time, what about A1A? It's not ours to fix, but it's ours if somebody hurts themselves,
No.
or could be.
It depends if they trip over
Right,
the
right.
sidewalk itself or not.
So not considered a priority.
No, but
I
it
mean,
should,
we don't put money into it.
Right,
but
right,
it
right.
should be part
Part
of
of the
this
package
whole
was the discussion.
discussion. Correct. Okay, number 11, newly equipped police vehicles, 3 of them at $150,000.
If you have consensus on sidewalk repairs?
I think we.
I think so, right?
Consensus to hit up at DOT
Yeah.
at first, if we can curry any favor. And then if they just ignore us, we gotta do
Yeah, we
something.
have to.
Leave it in the budget.
Mhm.
And again, why is A1A, FDOT and Ocean Avenue not?
Ocean Avenue is FDOT too. The problem is that Ocean Avenue, when it was decided that we're gonna put pavers in,
Right.
then at that moment it became
Right.
our
Came our
responsibility.
Yes.
We basically
Agreement
traded
between us and them.
pavers for
Yeah.
concrete.
For the fund.
All right. Okay, moving on to police vehicles.
We needed nice football to each residents. to walk.
Yes, we did.
So in the discussion regarding the police vehicles, I think it was last year, we moved from a 3-year rotation to a 4-year rotation to kind of spread it out a little bit. So that means 3 vehicles in the first year, 2 in the second, 2 in the third, and 2 in the fourth. And that will complete the 4-year cycle.
So what year are we in?
We're in the year that we need the 3. And this includes the building official's vehicle in the rotation as well. His vehicle was cycled from the fleet to him, and his is in pretty bad shape right now. Billy, did you get quotes on the fix for the building?
What's wrong?
What?
What
It
works?
could be transmission, it could be a lot going on with that car in the front end of it. I need to put it into Ford or someplace and let them seriously.
Right,
look
that's
at that
what I'm
vehicle.
I guess we get cough it up.
I have a question. Car number 1, which maybe is the car you're talking about, it's 2014, so it's out of warranty. It's only got 80,000 engine hours compared to these other ones that have 257 and, what was the other one? Some ridiculous, 206,000. So 2014, we've missed any window of value, right? As far as the warranty and selling, et cetera, et cetera. It's working.
That's the cheap
It's
spot.
low mileage.
Is that your car?
Is that you?
No.
So the one that has, that you're looking at, number 1, that has the oldest vehicle with the lowest mileage is the old police chief's vehicle. So what we've done is, they're unmarked vehicles, so they get cycled out, so we can keep them longer. So when I took over as chief, they were rotating the police chief's vehicle out every year. And we didn't have an unmarked vehicle. We had if you remember, a 2000 or 1999 Ford Escape.
I'm not a car
It
guy.
came back from the town managers originally, and when that cycled out, we started to cycle out the unmarked vehicles. So yes, we get a lot more value and time out of those unmarked vehicles because they're not used 24 hours a day. They're not driven as hard as the regular.
So what is the 2014 used for?
That is the lieutenant's vehicle, the investigators use it, folks in town hall use it to go to schools if we need it. It's the general purpose.
Well, I was just curious if in fact the general purpose with that kind of mileage, is it worth it just us keeping that one and just buying 2 cars,
Yes,
right?
I totally.
I have a question.
Like that's what I would do in my house.
Mhm.
So my question is, the 2 vehicles are, well, 2 of the 3 you're talking about, are they specifically for the building department and just the investigative work, so it's not chasing anybody down or anything like that?
We only have one department, building department vehicle.
Right, that's what I'm asking. He said, because he said the other one's being used by the
So the
investigator.
rotation of trade out is that you will acquire a new vehicle. The vehicle that's currently the chief's vehicle will go into that admin position because it's 4 years old. 2 of the other vehicles now, for the building officials, we may swap the building officials out, we may trade it, we may choose something else. The building official's vehicle, I guess, is now considered a part of the swap out for this. We will take a look when we get there and determine which cars have the most problems and which ones need to get traded versus which ones need to go. I had this discussion with the town manager. the day before yesterday, Friday morning. I can't predict that. Not only is the building official's vehicle, which was a police vehicle and was kept because we didn't have one assigned, that was supposed to have been swapped out 2 years ago. It never got done because of cost, because the original building official was going to get a pickup truck. That didn't happen. In the interim, we didn't trade his vehicle out. It should have gone. We knew that. We kept the best vehicle that we had with the least amount of problems, not the best vehicle.
Well, the reason, Chief,
And-
I mean,
and so we
I
have
get
two
what you're
different-
saying. The reason I even asked this question was because this may be the good time, being that it's just a vehicle-specific job. To Martin's point, maybe we should do electric vehicles for these two. Maybe start that. I mean, I don't believe the police department should have electric vehicles, but I mean, why not the building official and another vehicle that we're using for, you know, like I say, not chasing anybody up and down the road, start that avenue at this point in time.
And we can do that.
What's
This is
that?
a projection, and we can do that. This is a projection,
Mhm.
a worst case, highest cost scenario for 3 vehicles to replace in this cycle. We always look at them from the perspective of that is the highest, the police vehicle package is the highest.
So what percentage of that 50,000, what percentage of that 50,000 roughly for each vehicle is specific because it's tricked out with what you need to make it a police vehicle?
So 30, 15,
So ostensibly, if one of these were dedicated to the building official,
so if you're.
we could, that 150 could automatically be reduced by 15?
So if you're not going to cycle them out, you're going to buy the building official a new vehicle, we can get it for considerably less than $50,000.
But in
Not
that
what
case,
I put into my budget, unfortunately.
But that's not
Um,
rotating.
What I put into my budget is that cycling out to get the most bang for our buck on these vehicles.
And so if we are buying the building official a vehicle, that still means you need 3.
No,
No.
no rotation.
Yeah.
So the rotation should be for 3. I originally put in for 2. And the town manager said that based upon what we looked at, she wanted to consider 3 vehicles in this cycle.
Again, that's
So
not answering the question.
The building
here.
official's vehicle has major mechanical problems. We have one on our.
But in a normal rotation, you take one of the police vehicles and move that to the building official and he would get rid of his.
So
It's
when
a
we
yes or no.
implemented the building officials program, we took one of the old police cars rather than purchasing a car and gave it to the building official.
Yeah.
The intent was not to continue to do that. The intent was to have him have a vehicle and then cycle in a different vehicle. It was supposed to be a truck.
So what I'm hearing though is we're trying to help you break that cycle. We're saying, can we get Durrani a vehicle,
Dedicated.
a dedicated vehicle and bring you back down to potentially 2 rotating police vehicles, regardless of which ones they're gonna be, you making that determination? Does that make sense?
That's fine with me.
Is that doable?
Whatever it is.
So I guess my question to the town manager, is any of that vehicle potentially a pass-through in any form or shape? That is a contractual obligation that we have with Mr. Guy, correct? That he will be provided a vehicle.
Now, can I ask if we were going to switch this up and do a dedicated vehicle for Guy, the 2 that we rotate for the police department? Let's go back to your suggestion. If we did go start a program on electric, where's the money balance out there? You have any idea? 'Cause I don't.
It's a question Tracy can answer the next meeting. Meanwhile, we should just put a number on this and move on. How's that?
Or we won't even put a number on it yet.
Right, let's find out what it could be. If we're going to change it up, let's just say move it to the next one. with
The
more
expense of a hybrid electric police package is more than.
Not police.
Not police.
Not police.
For Guy first.
For his, I'm sure that we can get an executive model that would be much less.
All right, that was my question.
Are you opposed to a smart card? You wouldn't fit in.
Working car would be nice.
Yeah, when it goes.
So back
Okay,
to
so we'll
the
do
original
this.
thing.
Right.
We keep in the 2014, which is what I suggested, and then we just have access to, we only need 2 vehicles.
Correct, 2 vehicles.
So that's what we'll do. Okay.
And, but we're gonna leave it up to chief, which of these 3 he's gonna rotate out
So,
to.
so I think there's a misunderstanding. I think you're looking at 3 vehicles, you're going to direct replace his, and that we will replace 2 of the police vehicles in the slip.
So
You're
we're
still buying 3 vehicles. You're
Right.
buying
It's
2
just,
vehicles.
it's just the 3rd
and one
I was
vehicle.
just trying to keep it 2014 because it's basically worthless to sell.
Well, I mean, could the 2014 become Mr. Guy's car? Or is it in horrible repair? I mean, a car, I don't care how old it is, it's with less than 60,000 miles on it, for
The
goodness sake.
2014 can be cycled back into being the building official's car. It is an unmarked police car. It is better condition than his, however, it is out of warranty.
Here we go.
Okay,
Okay?
and how much repair has it necessitated?
It hasn't necessitated much repair yet. That's all I can tell
Okay.
you.
But it will be out of warranty.
Okay.
Then it falls
It's
apart.
way out of order.
But I mean, how many miles are you driving maybe on an annualized basis, Mr. Guy?
I'm just guessing, maybe, I don't know, 15,000.
If it's
generally-
like that, we'll-
So I would tell you that generally admin vehicles are used for between 12 and 18,000 miles a year, depending upon what
Right,
goes on.
what he said.
Okay, so I think we need to look at then maybe recycling the 2014 from Mr. Guy if it is possible.
It's better than the car he has. So that's a plus.
Do you
We
feel
have-
like
we
we're
have-
just
we have
horse trading you around?
We have
Sorry,
two
Doc.
vehicles that the town unfortunately needs to get rid of as soon as possible.
Okay.
How's that?
But let us go back and we'll.
Yeah.
we'll
And
get
one of those
that.
is and one of
Recess
those
money.
is-
So you're
We're all on the same.
Okay. Moving on, number 12, building permit software upgrade, $83,000. We got medium to high. I guess I would like a further explanation as to, and I'm a strong believer in giving everyone in each department whatever tools they can have to make their job as efficient as possible. And I see that the building and remodeling in our town is not going to slow down. COVID didn't slow it down, nothing's slowing it down. So I just, a little further explanation might help in starting the discussion.
Okay, so, the cost was actually higher. And we've been negotiating and pulling certain parts out of the package that we have been sold on this software for Tyler, which is, I consider the best, the marquee program that's available to towns for permitting. The greatest feature of this program is a 24-hour access by an applicant. And eventually, it could become a 24-hour access point to every resident. It will become a point where a homeowner can actually check the status just like you would on pop-up on my property. You know, pop-up could tell you what your projected fees will be this year for your taxes. You could look at it, see if you owe the town anything, see if there's any code enforcement cases. If you have a permit, you could find out the status in real time. Whose desk is this permit sitting on? We have a situation where many permits have been processed and they're sitting at the front because someone didn't read their email. You know, we call, we do our best to make outreach. Many times we keep being stacked with work, and this will actually help improve a lot. I mentioned it before, but it doesn't seem like this. We use like 10 different programs to do what this could do. If I could just lightly lay out what we start with. We have a huge logbook at the front desk. When a person comes in to apply for a permit, we go through that book and we pick the next available number. The software that we have does not allow us to do that. And to make it a smooth process, we have a physical book that's sitting at the front. When the person pays, we write it down and we take that number, that person starts processing that permit, okay? There are different things that Lisa has to do when it's not like she goes off and check everything off. She has to check everything, then she has to pick up the phone and she has to type another email and send this email off, and then she takes that, they turn it in the paper, put it here, then physically take it up, put it over on my desk. And there's like 10 different processes that happen when we could have a software that could do this.
Which is 10 different opportunities for a misstep.
Correct.
And an angry resident because something
Correct.
got
So
put on the left
we-
side of the desk rather than the right.
And accountability, we're talking about, we have different timelines, okay? When was the last time this person called an inspection? When was when does this permit expire? We have the 1 year expiration for certain types of permits. Now, there is not a flag that tells Lisa that today she constantly has to be checking an Excel document, scanning through, which we have here, then she stops right there, she writes a letter, then she sends off that letter. This will actually integrate a lot of that process, all right? And it will almost be like an additional person in the office, will make things run a lot smoother, reduce errors, okay? And we also have digital permitting, which is actually the part that we plucked out. There's a program, an add-on called Bluebeam. Just the license for that is $10,000 per year. That has been subtracted because we actually see where we can actually use Adobe. Maybe in the future we can look at it. But that's out. It also has another feature, which is real-time data for code enforcement. For police officers, they wanted access to the program in real time. Right now, we pick up the phone and we call a clerk who has to stop what they're doing to go into the program. Again, we can also use this program to input the actual results for the permit in the field. Now, how it works, we have a slip, we go over, we write it, come back to the office, give it to one of the clerks. The clerks actually types it in, and then if a person calls, they have to know, pull this information again, either email that person or tell them what the result is if they don't have it. This could actually email to the client immediately. This is the results of your inspection, which is, I mean, it sounds like, you know, the 25th century, but there are many towns, cities, villages in Palm Beach County and throughout the rest of Florida, and I guess
What towns?
United
What
States
towns
that
do
use
have?
that.
What towns have this particular program?
I know for a fact Wellington uses it. I know Village of Palm Springs uses it. I think North Palm Beach has this program. I would go as far as saying about 60% of municipalities use a similar program.
Okay.
And it sounds like it's been around long enough that maybe some of the kinks have been worked out of it.
So I have a problem with, and this is what I was talking about the direction the town's headed in with the bureaucracy sustaining itself. So this costs us $83,000 to minimize, this is quoted in the document, paperwork internally and save staff time. Meanwhile, on the same request, we're being asked to hire a second building inspector for $40,000. So it begs the question, well, why do we need all this? And I had staff was kind enough to pull me the permit applications issued, inspections done, et cetera, from 2015 and from recently. So in 2015, we're doing applications, 68 applications are arriving a month. And 70 permits are issued. There must be some left over from the month before. In the more current data from 20 and 21, we're getting 66 applications received and 56 permits issued. Now, that's a drop from 2015. Now, there's one other factoid. Inspections. April to August 2015, 162 inspections per month. Now, we only have the 2021 data for the last few months, 153. per month. So I don't, something's gone on here where we're doing less, we're requiring more equipment and more personnel. And I just don't get it. And I'm not saying Ronnie's only been here, what, 4 or 5 months? There's something wrong here.
You need to look, when you look at permits, you need to distinguish, because a permit in general is anything that you apply for.
Right. And I'm sure in 2015, there were a lot of people applying to renovate their homes and to build new homes. In fact, we got a rash of people come in then because the land was much cheaper.
I think the new construction is probably up from 2015, and I might be wrong.
But I was startled when I got these statistics.
I think the complexity of what is being permitted and maybe what is being
What's the
applied
complexity?
for, in terms of the size of the house, in terms of the new codes that are involved, in terms of FEMA. I mean, I think that there's probably more variables that just might fit in with your statistics. I agree. I'm not disagreeing with your statistics, but, okay, Mr. Guy.
Well, the number I have known of the amount of permits that have been processed is 100 per month. Approximately. I know what you got from Lisa, but that is my count that I've been
So
working.
you're doing less than 2015.
I can't speak about what happened in 2015.
You said
2015.
70 permits in 2015.
Now, the other thing is,
Oh, inspection.
with the request for the additional inspector, we do pay Hybrid right now for their services, and they make huge mistakes.
Yeah.
We're trying to present a very nice package, and the moment that I'm not able to be here,
But that money,
That's
that money, I don't even think we need to discuss, because that is a pass-through. So it's not really charged, we're not,
It's not, we're adding $83,000 in computers and another part-time person. It's not a pass-through.
okay, well,
See what I'm
part-time
getting at?
person would be,
Something's
the
gone wrong
part-time
here at
person,
town hall.
the part-time person, from what I understand, would be a pass-through.
It's not about a pass-through, it's about taking the money out of the hybrid contract and putting it into an employee.
Right, but we went through this when we decided to have a building inspector. Remember way back when? That was gonna save us, what, $47,000 a year? And then we still had needed all these subcontractors to do all the work. So we effectively increased our budget. So every time we bring something in, it's gonna cancel out some subcontractor or something that we're doing. It never quite seems to happen.
So how much money in 2015 to Steve's, how much money did the building department generate in 2015? Well, 2015, we didn't have, we had hybrid, right?
Yes.
So, but can we figure out how much was generated in income during that time? Hybrid or not?
Yeah.
And hold that against
And how much did we
how
pay
much are
hybrid?
how much are we taking in today? Because I think,
No, we need
you
a
know,
net
Steve is
revenue.
looking at the numbers and he's looking at the right numbers.
Right, it's our duty.
Right, correct. The question is there more to it or is there not? And if, you know, if those numbers come back that they're equal, then yeah, we need to.
But I think that's number 14. Let's take it with number 12. You know, it's still just about the computer program. And let's face it, we're writing things down by hand.
It's true.
And it's literally, I do a lot of building departments. It's just, it's quaint, but you sit there, open up a book. Reminds me of my first ledger back in 1984. Like, everything's on a book, like by hand, a little antiquated. And it's also nice, what's going to happen too, you will reduce the amount of people coming in and angry contractors
Yes.
because of the fact that they'll be able to check online what they need to look, what their inspections are.
Take the glass off.
But we can take the glass down.
If all this technology is gonna lessen the work at town hall, then we don't need to hire new people. That's what I'm
Well,
saying.
that's number 14, so.
Well, but there's a difference
We're
between
not asking for new,
administrative.
we're not asking for another.
We're talking about getting rid of hybrid and having somebody.
The inspector, I
Right.
think the inspector thing.
Let's stay on topic here with
Yes.
the software here. I'm with you. I think we should be way past the point of writing things in 10 different books.
Yeah.
And it will streamline the process and it will make people happier because they can do some of the work themselves and everybody can stay informed instead of when things don't go right, complaining that they're not informed or somebody hasn't done it.
Okay, so I'd like to have consensus. You're
Yeah.
saying yes, 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 no.
No, I'm a yes on the
You're a yes?
technology, and I would hope the price will come down.
Okay,
But I'm
so,
just saying if technology is saving human beings all these work hours, we don't need more human beings added to the mix.
okay, so let's go past 12 because we did
Yeah,
reach
yeah.
consensus on this. And
That's a
I hear exactly what you're saying. So number 13, low priority. Well, number 12, you get your software, but you're now down to a broom. Okay, no car. Number 13, gone. From what I understand, it was a low priority,
I
correct?
would like to, I have that one circled actually, and I hate to be that grinding wheel there.
Okay.
I talked to Carla, I think, and to Lisa about that. So there's an actual benefit to us having a scanner and doing the scanning ourselves. And it's a time issue. Carla wants to.
In theory, yes, it would be nice for us to have it in theory, but one of the reasons why it's low priority is because we don't have the time right now and not gonna have the time in FY '22 to start even scanning.
Yeah, but you're gonna get that time because now you're gonna have a software system. And Lisa all of a sudden is gonna do.
See, that costs us one money, you want another
But
computer.
let me interject here. We have years worth of records management that we need to get to that has not been gotten to in the past couple of years because we're too busy to get to the records management. We need to free up staff to be able to take care of everything that we need to do as far as state statutes go in records management.
And
Now,
also-
just to follow up on that, years ago, we actually hired part-time staff to come in and do that. Because they couldn't get to it either. I mean, it's one of those things, filing, it's just facts all, I'll get to it, and then you never get to it. So that's something maybe we could farm out.
And it's one of the things that, and Guy he's gonna speak about it more. I know from a clerical staff point of view, we would be okay because once you implement that system with TetherTech, if we go forward with it, it's gonna take a while for us to have to work with the system, put it up and do all of that. And we're probably not gonna have time in FY '22 to be working on the scanning project. I think for us, sometimes it's better to outsource it where we can give them boxes at a time and they can do boxes.
And that's what we're doing right now.
Well, no, that's for us to get a scanner.
No, I mean, the blueprint scanning that we're doing, we're still doing blueprint scanning, so we're just handing it over to a company.
Yeah,
that
we're
actually
giving
does
them
it for us.
10 boxes and they're scanning it for us.
And again, is it, it's not passed through because this is old
Forget my
stuff.
phone.
When it's a current thing and I come in and you need to give me for my new permit or my new building, a blueprint, that's a pass-through cost. But what we're talking about is
Archive, it sounds like.
archives.
Archive.
Yeah.
So it sounds like, from what Carla's saying, let's get this off the list, keep the archive system that you have in place
Yep.
and revisit it when you,
Right.
after all this computerized stuff comes in.
Exactly,
you have
after
so
they're
much
used
free
to this
time.
program.
Okay, Mr. Guy, you had a comment?
Okay, so it was a surprise to Mr. Cos when I told him the other day that I actually did study architecture in Jamaica.
Actually, what?
Study architecture in Jamaica. And everywhere I've been, there's always been a plotter. I came here and I was shocked that we did not have one. And when I found out, when we get a records request, someone to get a copy of a file that we have here, how does that work? Someone goes back there, sift through, finds it, and then calls in a courier from somewhere, pay them $50 to come pick it up, then it goes away, comes back a few days later or a week. This is something we could do, and in 10 minutes, we have a digital copy of a document for a records request. We collect $25 on every permit for scanning and archiving. In a sense, it is a pass-through, and the price that's here, it could be less. There are scanner printers that are as low as $3,500, but you guys know what the ink industry is. Many companies sell you a proprietary printer, and you can only buy their paper and you can only buy their ink. So that is why I was looking at getting something that would be way more efficient, could last longer. You could use paper and it would be a very good back product. So that's the idea behind that. I mean, I can't see us moving anywhere without having the ability to print a large document. This is what we do every day, and the time alone that it takes to do that creates a lot of inefficiencies.
But you're only talking archives, right? Because when somebody presents you plans, they have to present X number of copies of those plans that size, right?
No. We have 2 sets when someone submits
Yeah,
drawings.
right.
And one, the exact set is kept here as the office copy.
Yeah.
The other one is sent to the contractor as his field copy that we look at in the field.
Yeah.
And every so often, we need to reproduce this for different reasons.
But you charge the person that's asking.
Yes, we do. So there is a built-in cost to that. But what I'm saying is that what we have to do to get something done, that's,
Okay,
you know,
I have no problem
way
with
more
$10,000, but if it's not gonna be used until next year, so I'm just get a little confused.
Right.
I understand what you're saying, and I understand.
And
what Paul is
also for Carla, it would also become
It's a dual machine.
right, a large document that we could do,
But we're not gonna use.
poster boards. So we had talked about some time ago having a sandwich board, and it could also print the notices for P and Z and for, you know, Board of Adjustment.
Okay, so for money here, we spend $10,000, we're gonna use as a printer to help you guys out this year, and then next year, after there's more free time, we're gonna use it as the scanner for the archive.
Both, all the time.
Okay.
You need to take in and reproduce them.
If it saves us.
It just makes, it sounds the efficiency and the cutting down on the time between a request and actually getting it to somebody, between
Yep,
the courier
agreed.
coming, doing it,
Agreed.
bringing it back. So, can we just pull this to the side? Because I want to see what else we're committing to.
I just put yes.
Just
I
next.
wrote it in pen.
You wrote it in pen and you just nixed it. You nixed it.
Right.
Actually.
Yeah, right.
Okay, well, we will buy you one of those.
Steve is full.
So we're putting
You
that
mixed
on
it.
hold right now, okay?
Well, that's kind of started the next conversation, and everyone's talking about it.
Next round.
Okay, next battle, 14. Part-time building inspector, plans examiner, $40,000. What are we currently paying hybrid?
Depends on volume.
How much we claimed last year, right?
Yes.
58?
I'd have to look it up.
Last
See, that's
fiscal year,
why-
we dedicated to the private inspection service, previous year's 40,000.
That's why, if anything, this one should definitely be on hold, because you need to get all the facts straight first before you make a decision on, or even if we're gonna hire somebody, I wanna make sure exactly what I paid Hyper and for what.
Mhm.
Before I go into saying, okay, let's hire another guy. I mean, because we hire another guy, then that means Hyper is gone,
Mhm.
Plus,
For
I'm
everything,
not gonna have a
zoning.
scanner.
everything. 'Cause you'll be doing this zoning work.
Well, that
It's
changes
eventually
everything.
for zoning, not immediately.
But that's what you do now, do the zoning.
No, I don't do zoning right now. Manny does zoning.
Maybe that's what I said, that's Hyper. Maybe
Right,
does
yeah.
zoning.
Manny does.
And hybrid has been a very good partner throughout the years. I just feel that this is one area where you are actually interacting with our residents in a person who is dedicated to the town, not as a consultant, but dedicated to the town, may represent us in a better light. And we
had Don
can't,
For years, that was from Hyper, he was a cantankerous old
Oh,
fellow.
well,
But
and he passed
he was what he
everything.
usually was. He went there, he did the inspections, and if he didn't like his inspection, he'd say, look it up. He'd have to call it down.
The fact that he approved everything, it doesn't. make a
Right, so
difference.
can we, if your consideration is we want more facts, can we do that and talk about that another time?
absolutely.
Let's
I can
find
bring you
what,
to the next
That we need
meeting, how much we pay
Right.
Hyper and for what?
right,
How much did
exactly
we pay
right.
them for inspections? How much did we pay them for zoning review? Get you the
Okay,
chart.
Right, I think that'll help.
Right.
I think flooding would need
okay.
to.
13, 14, hold. Number 15, two bay garage, $45,000. I think we gave you a new truck last year instead, sorry. Okay. Everything,
Can you work with a container?
I have one now.
You have one? Well, we should get a second. It's $2,000 versus 45.
Okay.
There's two things in here. Is the commercial lawnmower in the 45 grand?
No,
Yeah, that's just.
It's a separate.
Most of the storage space they play in the truck and winch.
Yeah. Okay, number
I mean, if we
16.
can take one of the bays from the garage and put the new truck in there, in the police
Then
side of the
free it
garage,
forward.
then it would be fine. But we're
Since we're
trying to protect
rotating the
the,
police cars out on a 4-year basis.
yeah. And the trucks are not.
And the trucks are not, the trucks we're keeping, what, 20 years, right? The last one we had was a 99.
We should keep that in the
So,
garage.
so that should really be in the garage,
Yes.
whereas the police cars, sorry, chief.
One of those,
I'm gonna say something
aluminum
very
tape
unpopular.
or how
If we use our space properly,
or put it in stuff in the
we should
shed.
get by with what we have. If we use our space properly, we probably could get by with what we have and be able to accomplish everything that everybody wants to do.
Okay, riddle me this, rather than talking in superlatives, what are you intimating there?
Point 16.
What aren't we using?
We need to reevaluate the use of the storage container and make sure that it's organized. We need to dedicate some time and effort to remodeling the inside of that so that the garage bays for the maintenance people are available and can be used by everyone. If the truck is too large to fit in that garage bay, we can move something else around to there and just utilize our space in our area better. It just takes time and effort and a little bit of money to reorganize that. We've already started that. with the support of the project.
Okay, well, I don't think anybody's disagreeing
No,
with
save it.
that at all.
Okay.
Are we?
No,
Nope.
I like the sound of that.
Okay. Number 16, IT refresh at $64,000. I think we're back to, this is more a necessity.
Right.
Right, good. Done. 17, commission chambers audio system high priority. I don't think we need to discuss this, do we? Nope.
That covers it.
That's the people in the back.
What?
We need better microphones back there. Yeah.
Okay. Number 18, payroll time and attendance. Software, $33,000, medium to high. Again, I think this is moving us into the 22nd century. It shouldn't take anybody 2 days to process
Time
payroll.
clock,
It should take,
time.
it should take 3 minutes with a push of a button.
So that goes to Steve's point then.
It's saving $28,000 in work hours / overtime.
There we go.
Right, but we
No,
never
it's
see
not
that.
$28. No. It's not 28,000 in time and overtime. It's
So Richard, this is, if you factor in savings for payroll processing time, which is a person, human error, which is a person, lost time, which is a person, all right, paper reduction, I'll give you.
Yeah.
Okay, in other words, what I'm saying is we have $28,000 worth of personnel man hours now available to us.
And I think that they could probably fill them up in
Yeah, me
a
too.
nanosecond.
They can do
Yeah.
scanning with the $10,000 scanner.
That will never make the money.
Yeah.
This is-
Are we good with this?
I am.
Yep, okay, 19. I tell you what, after 19, we're gonna take a 5-minute break. Does that work?
Oh, let's get it even 20.
We got even, okay, after 20.
24.
19,
No, I
You don't
do,
like a break?
Christine.
yeah, sorry, you've been outvoted.
I'm not gonna wear
19,
a cap.
crosswalk near Crown Colony, $10,000, high priority, maybe able to fund in fiscal year 20. I had asked for an accounting to date of what we have spent, and that would be 10,032 some odd change.
I think we budgeted that much.
No, we spent it on engineering fees.
Right.
No way.
Way.
Way,
How did that happen?
way.
FDOT kept changing their
Right.
mind every
It's not
time we
just
submitted
us,
something.
it's
Right.
also the electrical engineer, but it's primarily continuing to pursue a permit. But we also have an electrical engineer as well, and we don't have a resolution.
Right, it hasn't been a straight process.
Yeah, the electric engineer, does Ron charge more at the moment?
No,
He's still on
He's
the
asked-
fix,
but that was
Part
the
of the
cost, I guess.
on the
That's what the
package.
cost has been for
Well,
trying
we
to.
should have negotiated a package with you.
So when I asked earlier the question whether this $10,000 could be or is absorbed in your budgeted amount overall for fiscal year 21, I was told that has been absorbed. So while we paid it, it's not an additional line item, if that makes sense.
It hasn't added,
What
but,
the,
okay.
so what
So
we
we shouldn't
budgeted
count
for
that.
the 10,000,
Right.
that was for the actual crosswalks with
Right.
the sidewalk and the landing.
So that 10,000 has not been used up. Okay. So now we need another 10,000 to
For
finish it.
lighting.
Okay. I'm a yes.
For vegetation clearing.
Right,
Yeah, and
right.
that's-
Sight lines, lighting.
So one of the things, Mr. Kern was here at the last commission meeting with Mr. Mazeroff, and they suggested if we could help move this project along, particularly expedited, that they had funds themselves that they would be willing to contribute. And I think before I would be willing to throw another $10,000 against this, I would like to know what percentage of the monies that they could actually commit to. Because we're looking at now really a $30,000 project versus a $10,000 project.
It's a soft 10 though on that. I don't know how you bookkeep that.
But you're saying
But
another
they
10 for
said they would
vegetation,
pay-
another 10
They
for
said they
lighting.
would pay for, should have paid at least 5, probably not.
Yeah, I think so too.
Can we get that number before we have to commit to what's in our budget? Okay.
Hey, Lisa, do we have even a plan?
Yes.
Okay, we have
And
a
the
plan.
plan's actually been approved, but for this cycle.
All right, so the thing is,
It's
the other
already
thing we
done.
gotta talk about is, they have the gate.
Mhm.
Because if they lock the gate, the crosswalk's gonna be nowhere but, to,
No, but it's here. Crown Colony has access to your gate via deeded plot access, plot A or something.
It's not been proven.
You guys show me
We
the piece
still
of
need
paper.
to go through legal on that.
Right.
You do have to-
Whether they can even put a gate there or not. It has to go through legal.
Ownership.
they can put a gate there. We don't know that it's their property. But, that's something we gotta consider. We're spending a lot of this money, and I think there should be some kind of agreement
At the beginning of this,
Crown Colony and between, the people that pay it.
there's deeded access to Crown Colony residents. I've seen the legal paperwork. Now, if that suddenly changed, I'm unaware of that.
How do they
But
get there?
I agree with you. I would like to tie the two together to make sure
Mhm.
that we're not doing good in one hand and then creating a nuisance or a liability on the other hand.
Mhm.
You have that agreement in writing before we,
Go forward with
start
more
another
money.
10,000, another 10,000, next thing you
Well,
know.
that would sure be a motivator for the folks at Crown Colony to sign it, I would think. I would hope.
Okay, so we have to
I'll
still
sign the light-
legal.
light-
I mean, leave
No,
it in
to-
there, but I'm
to-
just saying, you gotta
to
think about
agree,
the
get
other
our answer.
ramifications and parts of it.
Okay. Okay. So what did we decide to do here?
I mean, we should leave it in there, but I think we should, at least we need to get down to the bottom of the agreement between the two people, because they gotta use the crosswalk, or the walkway. We should have to make sure we have the agreement between both those parties before we spend any more money on that project.
That's number one. And then number two, try to ascertain how much Crown Colony will
Correct.
contribute.
Right.
So we know what our true budgeted amount is. But this is, this is the law of unintended consequences. You start with a $10,000 budget and now it's a
But
$30,000
I've seen
project.
the legal paperwork.
No, I'm talking money.
Yeah.
I'm talking money.
We sat down in the town hall, but I don't.
We have not seen a legal document from an attorney. I have not had written proof on what is stated. It is all hearsay.
Okay.
So
Then
we're
I'll-
looking
I'll
to
ask
legal to
Crown-
clear this
they'll
up.
fix that paperwork.
Right, we need
We
legal.
asked, we need
It's on
to
you
keep
now,
it
'cause-
nice. We need to see the legal documents that you have, and nobody is.
I don't have them in my possession. I was shown them numerous times during the past year.
Not
I've
from
got
an
a-
attorney.
Crown Colony will provide it.
Please, that would be wonderful.
Okay, so we got two contingencies on
Right.
number 19. Okay, moving on to number 20. Valve can locators.
See, that was like a slam dunk, right?
Yeah, once again.
Well-
Right.
Okay, that was number 20. 5-minute break.
Yep.
Recess. Big bang.
Or, what did you missing a page there?
4-minute break?
It's 29.
Oh, it's 29.
Yeah, no. Hello.
Yeah, where's my page?
I don't know.
29.
There you go. There you go.
You guys spend way-
You pulled it out.
Trying to pull it in.
See how you want?
Billy's got the wall, right? Just slide down. Oh.
How long you been doing it?
You have to testify to see if you said no, right?
Did you have your shot?
It's similar.
Yeah.
How long?
A couple weeks. Yes. Are you okay? Oh. Yeah. You? Right. Then it went away, yeah.
I think actually, we're hearing that in my class this morning. I was so surprised how loud.
You're trying to get on here.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
But that would be the weekend too.
You will.
I have like 5. Because they're getting more. They're getting more. Yeah, I wanted, I haven't had a survey. Every month, we work at 7:30, every month we work outside. 7:30.
That sounds like
It's early, it's late, it's late. But I can't find people to work, good people to work. Yeah.
She's ready, you know,
Tell me what you
My bad.
it is me. Not like right.
I don't think you ever felt it. I felt it once.
I need some caffeine. I think I grabbed Keisha back. I went over to Martin, and I just find
Caffeine? Let me go get you a cup of caffeine. Yeah.
And you guys are here. Proposed project. And everybody said.
Maybe crazy. But I mean. Yeah.
All right, 1 minute warning.
1 minute.
1 minute. You had 5 to begin with. You used 6.
I think we're moving right along.
We go fishing. I know you love.
10.
Like they.
9.
Hey. See, you're gonna end up on a catheter. You use the body. There's no. Yeah.
Did you hear about the shut up?
Oh, yeah.
All right, I'd like to reconvene the goal setting workshop.
Christine, Betty says she can't hear you very well, maybe.
Who can't hear me?
Betty, she wants to hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is this better, Betty?
No way.
Okay.
Maybe she should pick the
That's like we-
Okay, number 21. Ocean Avenue Street Light Replacement Program, $125,000. High priority, from what I understand. We are contractually obligated to do this, correct?
Yes, and not only that, but we received revenue. You'll see one of your revenue line items that we get every year. It's about probably $11,000 a year. We should have been maintaining them over the years, but we haven't. It's been deferred maintenance.
And are we using some type of LED lights or something that is,
Not right.
We will this
We will.
go around.
we will this go around? Okay,
Not like the
Wait
bright.
a minute, I mean, that seems like a high price. For 10 lights?
Sole source. Have to match the ones that were put in the thing. They come out of Canada.
12 grand, what? Expensive.
so we're completely replacing 10 of the 46 and upgrading the lighting in all of them?
Just on the 10.
It's not the whole fixture, right?
Yes, it's the whole
Yeah,
complete
that's what it says
fixture.
here.
Pole,
The
fixture,
pole,
The
everything.
pole,
the pole, the end,
the whole thing?
the whole thing, and the wiring that's in the
Right.
ground is very deteriorated, and they're all FDOT connections and disconnects, so if somebody hits the pole. It's all gotta be FDOT standards because it's on a state road.
And that's 10 out of 46.
10 out of 46.
FDOT is not our friend these days.
The wiring and FDOT plugs and stuff of that nature costs how much is each pole cost?
Right.
So which one are you gonna replace?
Probably towards the bridge side.
I was gonna say, which ones are you gonna see the most?
Yeah.
All the ones that are like buried in the trees.
Well,
Oh, we're gonna
you're gonna see that.
That's coming up, that's coming up. That was part of the,
Like 22.
part of the ones you didn't find yet. All right, let's move forward. Here we go, number 22 that escaped Mr. Pugh. Yeah, here we go. Tree trimming, high priority. Again, this is obligatory from what I understand.
So
Okay.
we really wanna open up the trees, the lights? that are- See them?
Yeah. Between that and the bricks, Ocean Avenue is starting to cost us a little bit.
Yeah, that's what you get when you go fancy.
Okay, number 23, paving plan, $200,000, low priority. Could you please give me just in 50 words or less why this was considered low priority?
Well, because if you drive the streets now, they don't have a bunch of potholes in them. They're in generally good condition.
So what's the worst street?
Go ahead, Steve. I'm sorry.
Hold on, I'll tell you.
I'm just saying that, you
No,
know,
no,
something you
visually.
should leave, maybe not 200,000, maybe do 100,000.
And then we all go look at the streets to see.
Yeah, but you don't want to wait till a pothole. I
There's
mean,
like
what are we,
7 left in the C
Northeast
category
somewhere?
here.
Look at this
Right.
Ocean Ridge.
So there's 7 of them.
There's
Again.
7 left in the C category. The ones that were in the D and the C minus category were taken care of, and some in the C category were taken care of at the last.
Right.
So do you know from visual which 2 of the 7 are the worst?
We would have to go and reassess because this was done in 2017.
So we're looking
Jesus,
at
4 years old.
2017 and we're saying, oh, they're not, the streets aren't that bad. It's
Well, they know they
well,
can
I think
get better.
it's 2021, isn't it?
Well, we ride them
I mean-
every day.
Yeah.
They're not,
So,
they don't have a ton of potholes.
so maybe you could email the
But you
commissioners the
said-
7
it's
C
called
streets and
maintenance.
we'll look at them before the
Well,
next.
It's like.
Which,
people
you mean
building.
in priority of which of the 7 that are listed here? So
Right, but we'll have to change
Right.
the list.
Yeah, the last
23, the
paragraph,
last
under number
paragraph.
23.
Oh, no, probably, I see what you mean.
So you want to put them in priority?
But I agree with Commissioner Pugh. I mean, it may not need the full $200,000, but I think we are remiss in not putting something aside because again, this capital improvement plan is part of anticipating future
Right.
needs.
And strike Spanish River. That's crazy.
What do you want to do, put 100 grand at it?
I'd like to understand a little bit more what we spent on the last ones. I mean, so 200,000 is, what was the overall 5-year mark on paving?
Say that again?
What was the overall cost expenditure for the entire 5-year capital improvement plan for paving.
We don't have a capital improvement plan for paving yet.
Okay, so this is outside of that.
Can I ask somebody a question here? We have Spanish River, we take that off the list because that's going to be ripped up in the next few years. Coconut Lane, we
Same
decided just
thing.
to threaten, just to
Threaten.
ask.
Ask.
Kareem
Ask.
Street West is where they're building a new road. So why would we pave that now?
That would be Thompson.
That's Thompson
It's Thompson.
with Kerrigan, the Kerrigan
Yeah.
property?
Mhm.
Kareem is the one that goes down to the nature preserve.
That one's in pretty bad shape.
Right.
On the Bahamas.
Chickasaw Ave is rarely used,
That
if
one
ever.
should-
Yeah.
Corinne should be priority.
Who said that?
Lisa.
Corinne East or Corinne West? Because I walked Corinne
Corinne
East
West.
yesterday and I
West,
Right west.
west,
Okay.
look
west.
at it.
Yeah, and it's only what, 50 feet
Not
long?
bad.
Mhm, exactly right.
I mean, if that is in pretty
Going to
bad
the nature.
bad shape, then probably we should get a price to have that taken care of.
How about Hershey?
I don't notice it being poor when I drive down it, but that's why I think we ought to go look at the streets.
We can have Lisa do a reassessment.
Can we do that before we
Yes.
we pick a number out of in there? Okay.
Also know that some of them that have been paved, we have issues,
Drainage
drainage
issues.
issues of those areas that have been paved that are not even on here.
Right.
That happened because of the paving.
Oh, right.
In at least two areas.
I don't know if it's my street.
Okay.
It's funny.
So when we did a repaving, we did not reach out to the adjacent homeowners and have them mitigate.
No, it just was, it's just the grading, because some of the areas are so flat, and when they milled and overlaid, it created the flow of water in a different area.
Mhm.
And so West Anna is one, and
We have the same beach.
West
Ocean
Anna's
View
horrible.
Beachway area has the same.
And nothing was changed other than the pavement.
Just make more problems.
It's a big puddle. We live with it.
All right, so we're going to review this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Number 24, potable water valve installation in Lake K, high priority. I don't think we have a choice on this one. Agreed?
No, well, you have a choice, certainly, but what's going to happen is if we don't get this valve, then we can't shut off the water if we have a water main break. We can't
Right.
shut off to there, so we're going to end up spending more, because we have to do more water
Yeah.
notices for the whole island.
And didn't we just spend a ton load of money right in that area?
Yes.
How did it go missing?
You know, all the trees I removed there on the corner.
Yeah.
I was hunting for water valves on the corner of Spanish and Inlet Gate in case something happened. According to documents from Boynton, documents we have one at Inlet K and one at Spanish. You can shut Spanish off. You should be able to shut the end of Inlet K off.
Mhm.
There is no valve there.
No kidding.
So if something happens at the end of Inlet K, I have to shut the whole entire island off. I can't shut off the end of that street like I can a Luther
Mhm.
or the backside of Spanish and keep other residents still in water.
So I guess that's why I heard.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Moving forward, number 25, potable water infrastructure repair and replacement, price TBD. Well, that's as clear as mud. So what do we got? What are we looking at here?
Let's look at Raftelis report first, and then we'll come back to you.
Okay. Number 26, bridge and seawall infrastructure repair and replacement.
That's one of those items that really needs to be put on the 5-year capital improvement plan, so that you start saving money for your bridge and seawall
bridge, right.
infrastructure repairs and replacements.
Yeah, but Susan just kind of, what bridges are we talking?
You're talking Inlet K,
Which-
Sable Island,
We just do.
Island Drive.
Okay, so we're gonna fix them, but they have a 2-year inspection cycle. So
Right.
someone said
Maintain.
we have to start saving money because it's gonna be a continual.
Not only that, but
Maintain.
seawall on Inlet
I
K
would
as
just-
well.
Make that a fixed cost, right? We know we're gonna have to spend that money every year.
That's what the
So
infrastructure.
I believe when you replaced Island Drive Bridge, you prioritized, if I remember correctly, that Inlet K would be the next based upon its aging condition. And then shortly after that, you would end up having to look at Sable Diffit. It's based upon the age and installation of those bridges, based on what we saw with Island Drive. So I think that's what this is for, is to
But you never
Be-
see
I'm
money
totally
for it.
confused.
preempt us to pride.
Right, and I guess I would also like to, let's delineate some of this so we know exactly what we're talking about. And I'd like to know where the seawalls are.
Right there when you,
It's
before you
right
go over
there
the
in
bridge.
the
it's
cave.
right
That's the only
outside.
seawall that the town owns.
That's it.
That's it?
We raised it.
I thought we owned the seawall at the end of Hudson.
We don't have one
Yeah.
yet. You need one.
You should.
You should have one there.
Okay, so that's the type of thing that I think it would just help to delineate.
Yep.
Stuff like that.
So what do we decide on 26?
Nothing.
Well, it's going to be determined how much we should put aside.
Right,
Yeah,
we're talking
TBD.
about, right, adding it to capital.
Okay, number 27. You already got your vehicles, let's move on now. Number 27, replace all-terrain vehicle, $8,500.
So I have a question. Does anyone use the golf cart anymore? I know the officers were using it, but I think a couple of them left. And does the golf cart get used?
We don't have a golf
Every
cart.
day.
It does, okay, good.
Are you talking about
let's
the
be-
low-speed
Let's be
vehicle?
vehicle, yeah, it's minimum 4 days a week,
What?
sometimes more.
Okay.
Depends on the weather.
Get my
Morning
idea.
was not
I was
good.
gonna say sell the golf cart.
Yeah.
Buy this, but-
Okay, so it's you.
But do we have a golf cart and a gym? Or
No,
just
no,
a gym?
he said the jump car is the golf cart.
No, this is not going to slow down beach patrols, right? Because I mean, that's all I heard during the campaign thing with dogs on the beach, dogs on the beach,
Yeah,
dogs
me
on the
too. I
beach,
heard a
like
lot.
border torture, dogs on the beach.
Unfortunately, the reason that I'm asking you for the replacement of this ATV is because we rode the living daylights out of it
During COVID.
during COVID, one big
Mhm.
thing, and it's got some issues that are
Right.
starting to develop.
So is that going to move up to priority level?
I put a yes next to it.
What's that?
I put a yes.
I think part of the dogs on the beach is it's our residents. So I mean, I don't know.
Well, that's,
What the hell are you gonna do about that?
you gotta-
If you want to beef up enforcement, this becomes a
Right.
medium to high.
Because
priority.
that, I got the same thing when I was asking people about our goal setting, what do we want to
Yep.
talk, and that's what I got.
What
People love
happens is
that
that
thing.
they're in such a harsh environment that unfortunately, when one goes out, you only have two. So if one goes out, we lose that ability to do that altogether. So I try and look forward and say, how far can we make it with this
Mhm.
machine? I'm not saying that we're gonna buy it October 1. We'll try and milk as much time out of it as we can, but I don't think you're gonna get 2022.
Okay, so we've moved it up and then we're agreeing that it's high priority.
That it's coming?
Yep, I put it this time.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. One police car, one all-terrain vehicle. Number 28, part-time public works personnel, $25,000, medium to high. It looks like we will be able to offset that potentially with some of our vendors, reducing some of our vendors' work. Is that correct?
Yes, the cleaning company.
So really, rather than $25,000, it would be more like in the $12,000. But in the $25,000 part-time, do we end up with insurance on top of everything, FSR? You know, the
No,
whole
'cause
additional
it's
payroll?
part-time.
Because it's part-time, right?
No, so it's
So-
static 25.
Here's my issue. I'm not a fan of this. Billy, I know you work hard. So I'm assuming the cleaning services are professional cleaners.
Yes.
So we're either hiring a cleaner for 25,000 who's gonna go do public works on top of their expertise of cleaning, or we're gonna hire a public works guy who's then gonna come in here without any real knowledge of cleaning. We're trying to find a hybrid person. It makes no sense.
So we hire a company to come in and do cleaning. I don't know how real professional they are. They're a company that
You
comes in.
don't want to ask the chief how professional they are. I'll just answer that.
Okay.
Define cleaning, what are we talking about cleaning?
The building,
Vacuuming,
Right.
mopping.
Like a cleaning service.
cleaning,
like you have at your house, somebody,
You guys really
Sanitizing.
want to do, you guys really want to do this?
no, I don't.
Well, that's what we're asking.
I have.
That's the question. So Tracy, go on.
I mean, we really need the help in public works.
Right, that I
Absolutely need
understand.
the help
So this is how you were looking to help, and we would,
to offset the cost.
and we would look to the new public works guy to take on this? How much time would that take from his, part-time is 20 hours approximately, correct? So how much time of that would be taken away for cleaning versus helping public
What
works?
do you think, Billy?
4 hours a week probably to clean this
Okay, so
building
you still get
properly.
16 hours of help.
Hold on, you can clean this entire building in 4 hours?
If you're good.
My cleaning lady spends more than 4 hours cleaning my house.
Right.
Your house is very dirty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I give you that. We have 2 dogs.
It's apples and oranges.
We have a couple that comes in there.
Right.
Yeah. That's eight man.
I don't see where you can clean this building. I mean, just to vacuum this building would cost me 4 hours. If you're doing the job right.
No.
So I think maybe
How many people are coming in here from the cleaning service?
And how long?
And how long are they staying?
2 to
Two,
2.5
right?
hours. a
Half an
week,
hour.
I agree with you,
generally.
Mark.
What's it cost?
Impossible.
Well, that's the reason why they can't do it. That's the reason why they can't do it.
I think we need to separate these two discussions. First and foremost is the idea, I think, of the, can we have single conversations, please? Okay. I think part of it is, if we could try to separate the two, I think we were trying to justify having some additional employee help and trying to offset it in some way. What I'm hearing is the question is more about the offsetting and less about, I think what we really need to ascertain is this person needed in public works? Is this the right amount of money to offer this type of person? What would their roles and responsibilities be? And kind of leave the cleaning service out of that, out of the discussion at this point. I mean, I kind of felt the same way about buying a new lawnmower. If we're buying a new schwanky lawnmower, then we should probably be taking some stuff back from CWA and mowing it ourselves if we've got the ability.
So I have one other thing. Once again, Billy does a fantastic job. 2019, we had one public works employee, and that was you. The other guy was on workman's comp for what, 6-9 months?
No, we had 2. We had Tim,
I
we had
thought-
Tim and
One
Billy.
guy.
But Tim, who's the guy that hurt his back?
Dave.
Dave.
He left. See, Tim was, so there were 2 of you.
I don't know how you heard it back either, because you never did anything.
Right.
You said go pick up lunch.
He
There's always been
leaned
two.
out of the golf
Right,
cart and
it's
picked up.
consistent.
I know there had to be 3 if this Dave character was involved.
But he was.
No.
But then you got rid of him. You didn't miss him.
Tim was here for 5 months.
Yeah.
And then we were short-staffed.
Right.
So we're gonna have 2.5, is what you're saying, we need 2.5 guys?
If we
Right.
continue going the way we're going, yes.
Absolutely.
I can't, we're to the point we can't.
Well, I remember when you first started, we hired you part-time.
Yeah, I remember.
So,
Right.
so one of the things that has happened is, remember, they're now doing fire hydrants. They didn't do fire hydrants for 10
I get
odd
that.
years. I mean, you've got a lot of additional foot traffic and therefore a lot of extra trash that needs to be picked up, particularly on the weekends off of Old Ocean. There's a couple of things that didn't exist maybe a couple of years ago. And I think it speaks to the
Right.
level of service that we are expecting as a town. So, $25,000 is money well spent in my mind. I don't know if I would try to trade it out for the cleaning service, but,
It's 2 separate items.
yes.
Anyway, I'm just gonna reserve thoughts till next meeting.
Okay.
Do what?
I'm not gonna make a decision till the next meeting.
Oh,
Is there additional information that you would like to be able to make that?
Well, I was gonna talk to Billy, the pandemic, has that caused a lot of the issues you're having?
Yeah.
It's caused none. Okay, that's good to know. Well, wait a minute, it has, because of the amount of people that fled to Florida, creating the foot traffic and the trash.
well, just, I mean.
Trash is an hour.
We're not getting any smaller.
No, actually.
We're not getting any
And now we're
smaller.
maintaining fire hydrants, we're painting every year, we're doing a lot of different things.
I think it's.
Okay.
This-
So
And it's
I-
not-
I'll go along with, just commit to the guy, and then if we decide that it's not needed, Billy will listen.
Let me ask you this, Billy. And we talked about this the other day. How much time do you spend with the trash pickup on Old Ocean?
Usually on a Monday, if it was either myself or Chad by ourselves, you're looking about 3 hours. depending on how heavy the trash is, start to finish.
And had there not been the discussion to ask Waste Management to see if they would do a routine pickup?
We have already discussed that.
And what was the answer?
There is no answer yet.
Okay.
Ooh. Will we have the answer by the next meeting?
I hope to.
And then if they will not go down to the beach, which
They won't.
thank you for actually placing the bins down on the beach. I think that was hugely
A lot of people
helpful.
don't want
They don't?
No.
I have a lot of people that actually told me that they love it. The people that actually pick up trash and they.
Right, the people that are picking up trash.
That they don't have to go up on top. So, but maybe we can figure out a steward program where, you know, people that live on a particular crosswalk, that there's one dedicated person that will just take that trash and put it on a Monday night, put it out front, so when.
Not
Are
gonna
you
happen.
kidding us?
Not gonna happen.
No, I actually, maybe you'll do it. I'll go over to Porter
Yeah, there's a
Street.
couple
I'll
people that
volunteer you if you want.
But I don't think that takes away from. Right? Like, the garbage isn't the whole idea, right? We got a lot more things that y'all are gonna need, and I'm all for giving you the help. you need.
I would just like to maybe see a little bit tighter delineation of what it is that these additional roles and responsibilities that this person could do. Okay?
Yeah, leave the cleaning out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And leave the clean out.
And he should start picking the trash up. Do we have a vehicle for him to use to pick the trash up?
Oh, no, we're back to
Let's not
vehicle.
go there.
now? We're gonna use the ATV.
2014.
We don't have a.
July.
I mean, we still have that old dumpy truck though.
Do you have a vehicle for this public works department person to do something independent of being in a truck with Bill?
No, we won't unless we keep the old dumpy truck that we have out in the back.
Keep your dumpy truck.
Yeah, it sounds good for
It's
garbage.
for trash.
Okay, moving on.
Okay, consensus?
Yep. Commercial lawn mower, $5,000 medium priority.
There it is. Here's the new guy. Mow the grass.
Which we're also getting behind on, keeping the alleyways mowed. like,
Why is
Right,
that
right.
not the responsibility of the homeowner that is directly adjacent to that alleyway?
They don't own it.
Public right of way.
I know it's public right of way, but so is the public right of way in front of my house, and I'm obligated to
You're a good boy.
maintain
That
that.
is the nice guy.
I'm not gonna stop on my problem.
So we're using a household lawnmower?
Yeah.
Really?
We use John Deere.
John Deere.
Wow.
Takes a little while.
Okay,
Gets done.
I think, again, I'm a believer in giving your staff tools.
Right,
that they
I
need.
am.
You know, you did get a new truck, but it is very nice looking.
It is, isn't it?
It's a good looking truck.
Can we back up to the part-time person?
Yeah.
Just really quickly, I just want to mention that the police department does help out the public works department too. And if you want do you want to talk about that?
So if you want a justification for your part-time person, let's look back historically at Ocean Ridge. They have taken on fire hydrants, they have taken on valve maintenance, they have taken on all kinds of things. Shortly before I came here, most of that was handled by fire lieutenant and volunteers on a monthly basis. We lost that group of free labor and have not been able to get it back. And so they are doing more than they ever have.
Oh, I see it.
Yeah.
You don't have to convince me, I do.
Thank you, Chief. Replace number 29. Woo, woo, woo.
So
Well,
did you get a consensus?
There's not actually 29, so I guess it was number 30.
Yes.
29 was the commercial lawnmower.
Right.
Yeah, so number 30, I guess, is the last.
Yeah.
And it's,
On the back side.
yes,
But so I didn't number it just because we're just putting that on the list so you're aware that you're going to need it
It's
probably
coming.
next year
It's
or the
coming.
year after.
okay,
This
So-
is when,
so
when
now-
septic to sewer actually comes in handy.
correctly. So now that we've gotten through this, there's three big things that we may or may not be able to reach consensus on, or at least give some direction on. First is there any appetite, depending on how the budget comes back, to increasing the mill rate? And the reason that I asked that is last year, we started the budget discussion with a declaration that we were going to, at all costs, hold the mill rate steady.
Hold it. who's gonna say, Ray, come on, at the end of the budget, we'll figure out if we're desperate. So I would say hold it.
If I present the budget to you in June with all of these things, it's not gonna be balanced with the same mill rate, just so you know.
Correct.
It'll
Yeah,
be
but then-
showing that we're taking money out of reserve.
Then we go back to the Sears
And then
Canyon.
we have the same discussion
If
that
you're
we have
okay with
every
that,
year, are we,
that's fine.
are we not? Yeah, but also, why don't you show that,
Yeah.
okay, if you raise millage rate, point.
We do show
That's
that.
what she showed, exactly right. So we see
I'm
that
gonna
we
be the-
need to.
I'm gonna be the unpopular one, I'm gonna say, that raising the millage rate is not off the table.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
You've all heard it.
We see what comes. You
We have
do a
to
great
look-
job
we-
laying that out for us and giving us our options to pay for what we want and have a chance to pull out something that we
What's the
need.
other
Three options.
The second point was the percentage of ad valorem collection. We currently are budgeting at 97.5. Staff is recommending that we do not lower that, and that 97.5 actually turned out to be a pretty concise number for our budget this year. I just want to make sure that there's.
So we were traditionally 97.5, and then Bonfiglio ratcheted it up to 98.5,
No, Bessler did.
and then we took it
And
back
then,
down.
and then him and I had conversations and, in our conversations with the tax collector and the property appraiser, he understands now that that was not the right thing to do, because there are, the reason why you do that is because there are,
Homestead.
yeah, well, you have your people who come in to appeal their tax bills, but also you have the rebates in the front end.
Mhm.
So if you pay your taxes by a certain
Right.
time,
Oh,
You're not putting the
Less
less
money
money
goes in the pot.
so
was in
we're
there.
committing to holding it at what we are currently at.
Correct. Everybody good with that?
So that,
Mhm.
so the 100% would be the rate base of the March payment.
I don't know.
Millage.
No rebate
No.
is what he's saying.
with no rebates.
With no
or-
rebate.
Or nobody
Okay.
appealing their value.
Which isn't gonna happen.
Yeah. No. I would think in an affluent town, most people do take advantage of the discount. and
Absolutely.
pay.
Paying out on it.
And the last one, which is indelibly tied, obviously, to the mill rate, is the reserve depletion. So, I mean, we're just gonna have to weigh
Take a
those
look
two.
at
See what it comes
see where
out.
we're at.
Right.
Yeah.
See what it comes out.
It would be very helpful, though, for the next budget, because I know last budget cycle, we decided to hold the mill rate. We thought we had budgeted against removing $700,000 from reserve. It didn't come near that. I'd like to have a better idea of what it actually is coming close to. So when, when we do this from the dais, we don't have people, angry residents, their hair's on fire, we're spending, using all their money. So, okay, that'd be great. Any further comment from the commission? Staff? Good job. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for everybody in attendance.
Thank you, Tracy.